Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it. Brie Larson says one fucking thing and we make a whole video out of it. That's what we do.
Words are flowing out like woke Mary Sue, objective truth. They don't mean much, but nothing ever does across the grift of
the military parade, the Kim Jong-un style, Soviet style thing in Washington with tanks in the street, I think is a flop. Newsmax is reporting 10,000 people showed up for this thing.
I think that he's got to take his medicine here.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now. Oh.
Surrounded by 20 Kermit the Frogs.
Do you believe you are Jordan Peterson?
What do you mean by believe?
I don't know if you're copying my voice or what.
That's the circular definition.
That's the circular definition.
You stake your life
on it.
And you die
for it. I feel like I'm talking to myself here.
How much do you know about me?
Hypothetically, if you were born Jordan Peterson, but you talked like Kermit the Frog, that would just make you a human with a frog voice.
You're generating an impossible, restricted, hypothetical, with no precursors to back me.
I can't tell them apart. You like eating red meat, right?
Sure.
And what do Jordan Petersons love eating more than anything else?
Why are you asking me?
Because you are Jordan Peterson.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Is this Jordan Peterson versus Kermit the Frogs?
Don't be a smartass.
Either you're Jordan Peterson or you're not. Which is it?
You're really quite something.
That's because you're Jordan Peterson, you're not a frog.
Yeah, I'm done with him.
I respect Dr. Peterson, but I think he's losing it.
Croak, ribbit.
I've always found it strange that people feel like corporations changing their logos to pride colors for a month is pushing stuff down their throats. We live in a heteronormative world. As queer people, we have to exist in a world where everything around us, pretty much all of the time, reflects heteronormativity. And for 1 month a year, we get to celebrate with our community around the world, and you guys lose your minds. And it's not even about you. That's the part that's so crazy to me. I know this might be hard to believe, but Pride doesn't revolve around straight people. The whole point of these kinds of events is so our community can have some time to do things out in the public, out in the open, and celebrate who we are that doesn't revolve around straight people. Now, of course, straight people are welcome at Pride. We're very welcoming in that way. But it's not supposed to be about you. And when you make statements like this, you make it about you. I'll give you an example. I am not a practicing Christian, but during Christmas time, between October, November, December, January, February, March, depending on whether or not people take their trees and their lights down, I have to deal with Christmas. There's a lot of people around the world who are not Christians that have to deal with Christmas. And I'm never going to go around and say, all of this stuff being pushed down my throat, I wish it didn't exist and didn't happen. Why not just do it inside your house? Because that would be ridiculous. I'm not a Christian, and those things are not for me. They're for people that want to engage in that stuff. So it's for Christians who are celebrating Christmas. That's the thing here. Like, if you're not celebrating Pride, and it's not a part of anything you're doing, then you shouldn't even be worried about companies changing their logos to rainbows, because it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's so crazy. It's crazy to me having to explain to a community that has nothing to do with Pride that this isn't about you. Nothing is being shoved down your throat. When they're selling merchandise with rainbows on it, are they selling it to straight people? No. They're selling it to gay people, queer people, and allies. They're not trying to sell it to you. When they're doing all of the rainbow stuff and everything on their logos, are they doing it for you? No, they're doing it for the queer community and allies. Not everything's about you. You get the rest of the world all the time, even during Pride Month. Even during Pride Month, there's over 62 countries in the world where being gay is illegal. I think y'all will be okay.
Hello and welcome. My name is Dane from the channel Actual Fandom. That guy that you just heard talking, that's Eric Debunks / Eric's Reloaded / Eric. Who knows what other kind of crazy shenanigans he's got going on, and he's here with it.
Who knows what else is going on?
Who knows?
I don't even know what's going on half the time.
So many irons in the fire. You know what I think the problem might be is that they don't have something being shoved down their throat. Maybe they're upset about that.
Maybe that is the issue.
I want something shoved down my throat. No,
I see that comment so often, and I'm like, it's not even for you. It's not about you, man. Like, the fact that you make it about you is the fucking reason it exists in the first place.
Can we talk about that phrase in particular being like the most common thing? Like, they have no self-awareness of what they're saying when they use that. Like, you know, or maybe they do. Maybe they're expressing that that's their, you know. Okay, so there's the somewhat problematic, but often, not often, but sometimes true trope of, you know, the loudest anti-gay bigots might have something that they need to explore about themselves. But also from the other angle of, like, maybe they're just expressing that that's what they're afraid of, right? Like, it's just somebody's going to force something on them, and I've just never understood that that weird fucking panic of gay panic, you know. But nonetheless, this, yeah, like you were saying, it's not about them. They want to make it about them. I think that might be part of the problem as well, that they just wish it was. I don't know. I've noticed a lot less Pride stuff this year.
Yeah, that was actually, I was going to do a video about that with Low Watermark. We were going to talk about that, like a live stream, kind of going over the performative activism that's been going on and how problematic it is. You know what I mean? Like, Pride in general, like the big box stores like Walmart and Target and even Amazon to some degree, they mostly serviced areas where Pride stuff wasn't, like, readily available. Like in my area, you can go, there's a lot of, like, community driven places you can go to get Pride merchandise if you want. And if you go to the actual Pride events, typically you're going to run into artists that are selling, like, Pride merchandise. So, you know, you can get it that way. But we're talking about, like, rural areas and places like that where, you know, they might not even have a Pride event. The only place you can get it is somewhere like that. So it does suck for that reason. And they still have the stuff, like, you can go on the internet and buy it, but if you go into the stores, like, it's just not there, man. They got it pushed all the way to the back of the store. It's a shame though. But look, Target is being fucked. Like, their fucking sales growth is negative. Like, it's just not good.
Good for them.
You know, I mean,
they earned it.
Well, the worst thing about it is Target was the answer to Walmart. Like, that was it. They were like, we are the more progressive, you know, open company. That was their marketing gimmick. That was what they were telling people, right?
I always saw them as the slightly more expensive Walmart, which is why I chose them, because I've did. You know.
I mean, there's no good, there's no hero in corporate battles like that. But
well, that's the thing, right? Like, so, like, it's not inherently. I mean, it's a problem because, you know, sadly because we live in a capitalist society, the way that we see progress first in any respect is to see, you know, corporations adopting, you know, the language and the symbology of these movements. So it's not a good thing to see that kind of be peeled back.
But, you know, the irony in that, Dane, though? The irony is the chuds and everybody that has fought back against DEI and visibility in media,
Yeah.
their victories are all visually like surface level victories. Like they're excited that the biggest companies, the biggest like chains in merchandising in the country have decided to put their Pride merchandise in the back of the store. And to them, that's a massive victory. You know what I mean? Like they think of that as like a big impressive thing. But like I said in several of my videos, that's like the very top end of everything. That's not even.
So that just means that the
stuff,
chuds aren't going to be entering the store and seeing it and then making videos whining about
Right.
it. And then, you know, people can just go in and they have to walk a few extra steps to buy their Pride gear. But we do have this is a federal judge I've got right here that is a Reagan appointee of all fucking presidents. Rules that anti-woke is just racism. So let's see. Earlier this week, federal judge in Boston explicitly called out the Trump administration for its palpably clear discrimination against racial minorities and LGBTQ plus Americans in a case involving canceled grants for the National Institutes of Health. Have we no shame? Judge William Young asked in an unmistakable echo of Attorney Joseph Welch, who famously punctured Joe McCarthy's popularity with this simple plea for decency. 75 years ago, McCarthy and his sidekick, Roy Cohn, hunted communists. Now Donald Trump, who was mentored by Roy Cohn, hunts a different kind of subversive. An executive order signed during his first weeks in office, he targeted illegal
Oh, your audio cut. Try that again. Your audio cut out for a second.
Okay. So yeah, he said, you know, everybody remembers Trump signed a bunch of shit as soon as he got into office against DEI or whatever, claiming that they violate civil rights. It is policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female, and blah, blah, blah. So that's not, but the thing is that's not, there's nothing supporting any of that, as we know.
Right. I mean, this is pretty impressive because I think what we're seeing is that something that we saw, like, I hate to tie this back to the Chuds, but it kind of does fall back into this.
It all connected.
Like, the Chuds straddle the line of, like, how much can we get while pushing the envelope, but not going so far that we alienate all the people in our community, like the people that are not racist enough to tell everybody they're racist. You know what I mean? Like that kind of group. So, like, you're seeing these judges who were okay for the most part with the agenda of the conservative community or, you know, MAGA, as long as it didn't push back on them and their beliefs in like the Constitution and things like that. So it's getting to that point where we're going from like nerdrotic to JDA, essentially. Like,
yeah.
Like, which one are they willing to deal with? They'll deal with nerdrotic because nerdrotic can package it in a nice, slick way. But they're not going to deal with someone like a JDA who is just outwardly bigoted and hypocritical and stuff like that. That seems to be what's going on.
He's a true believer, JDA, and, you know, there's a few of them like that. And, you know, I mean, I think that they all, to some degree, believe in what they're saying as far as like the being anti, you know, queer people and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Like, does the grift come before that hatred kind of thing? There's like some kind of calculus in their minds, I think, that happens. Whereas like JDA is just like, no, I fucking hate people. I'm a fucking Nazi, and I don't care. That's all I care about.
I have to pull this up for a second before I forget about it and it disappears away. I thought that Bob said, no, it's because of the shoplifting gays. I was like, oh shit, the shoplifting gays?
That sounds like a cool gang. Can I join?
That's funny. No, I just thought it was hilarious.
I mean, I think those two things are related. I think the fact,
but that's why he's a fail. So Sketchy. This is my point. Is the reason why Trump and this administration is going to fail on a lot of the stuff they're doing is they're going too far. Like they're finding out that the beliefs that they hold, those extremely deep rooted, like anti, you know, basically bigoted beliefs, that's a step too far for a vast majority of people. I think that's the problem that they're going to run into.
Yeah, but hold on. Counterpoint. This just in. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think. Look, I don't want to say that I think that I believe most people at their core are not bigoted in some way or another. I think everyone lives in a systemic society where certain things are just exist or whatever. But
yeah.
I do believe that there are people in our government. We're seeing it now. We're like, this isn't the only one. And we've seen other rulings where they've gone against like MAGA and the administration. We're seeing now that some people actually do have some set of standards, even if they're a little bit further right than I would like. I mean, they at least have some bar for what
there is a nuance to it. And I think there's a lot of people on the left that don't like to acknowledge that. you know, that like to, I mean, and it can, and I understand like the harm caused by these people, whether they're far right or just kind of somewhat semi far right or whatever, it's all harmful, it's all bad. So I get the reaction of like, fuck them all, you know, it's all bigotry, because it is. But like, I think when it comes to engaging with the people that we have to deal with here, and knowing, I don't know, how to prioritize and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, for example, right now, Gavin Newsom is doing pretty good shit. You know what I mean? Like, he's generally, for the most part, unless I missed something today because I haven't looked into it, has been handling this shit with Trump pretty okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't like Gavin Newsom.
I actually think he's positioning himself to run for president. That's what I think is happening with him. Because what the problem is that I think the Democratic Party is still under the assumption that they can win by like reaching out to the MAGA folks. Like you have to. I hate to say this, but you have to let them figure it out for themselves, and then they have to come to you. You can't go to them. It's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Because anything that you gain from them, you're going to have to give up way too much. It's not worth it.
I mean, he's already sort of flip-flopped on trans rights, so I mean that's kind of a thing, you know. Do I think that Gavin Newsom would be a net negative to the country like Trump is? Absolutely not. I think Gavin Newsom would be much better for the country. I mean, literally almost any person that's ever ran for president would be better for the country than
There's a bunch
Trump,
of Republicans that I would just be like, yeah, let's have him right now.
So look, I mean, again, just like it was with the whole Biden versus Trump thing, I would have voted for Biden, not because I like Biden, but because Biden's not Trump, and those were the only two options we had. So, you know, people are like, oh, you could have voted, you know, done some sort of like third party or green party. Or no, that doesn't matter. Like I'm not going to contribute to making my vote count as zero. I don't care. I'm going to, if there's two people running, I'm going to pick the one that I think is going to cause the least amount of harm because that is the most realistic way to look at it. That's just my opinion. Other people can vote however they want.
So I just wanted to finish up on this this judge here, because I mean, I do think it's relevant. It's like this guy, he even expresses hesitation with making these statements, but at the end of it, he's just like, I have to say this because it seems clear to me that this is intentionally designed. You know, this campaign against DEI or whatever is just a smokescreen for fucking being a bigot. Once again, Reagan appointee. It's crazy, but like
he's been around for a minute, basically. Yeah.
So he's talking about stuff like you know, what we got. They've pulled down websites about, you know, Jackie Robinson on transgender healthcare, stuff like that. And, you know, this article makes a good point about like why, you know, because there's so many people are like, well, why does it have to be about race? Why does it have to be about this? Because there are distinctions. This doesn't, you know, if you can't distinguish things without making one superior in your mind, then you have a fucking, I don't know, brain damage or something.
Yeah.
Like that seems to be the problem with a lot of them. But like, for instance, sickle cell anemia. How are we supposed to talk about sickle cell anemia if we can't talk about race? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just it's a disease that affects Black people only, and so that's just one small example of many things that, like, the nuance is being fucking destroyed. And
I don't think that community understands the difference between a racial conversation and a racist conversation. It's two different things. You can talk about race without being racist. You can do that. You know what I mean?
Same thing as humor. I actually was commenting on JJ Trujillo's very terrible video that he put out today or yesterday, whatever.
Didn't see it.
Not good, man. Like, it's about so you know about Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports,
right? Yeah.
How he went on that rant a while back because somebody had a thing that said "fuck the Jews" in the sign in his bar. Well, the framing of it in his video, as in like in JJ's video, as in like the people that are responding to it, even Dave himself on his podcast where he's talking to one of his co-hosts or whatever, and they get in a big argument about it. They're talking about it like, oh, so you can't make jokes. And JJ's talking about it as a joke. And I'm like, hold on, let's fucking step back here. Where's the joke in fuck the Jews?
Yeah. What's the punchline? What's the punchline? What's the ha-ha there? Like, it's,
I'm not against edgy humor. I'm not against racially charged humor. You know, there's ways to do this stuff, but just fuck the Jews. If that's your standard of quality for comedy,
that's not a joke though. Like that's not humor. That's a statement. You know what I mean?
Yep. So, you know, and they're not, but nobody's even addressing that fact. They're all engaging in it as if that's just taken for granted that is a joke. And that's pretty shit. As somebody who actually likes comedy, that's insulting.
We went back and forth, or Bob. I think it was either Bob or was it Bob when he had the interview with or not interview, I guess debate with God, I can't remember their names anymore. They're so irrelevant.
Was it the backseater guy?
No. Fuck, what is his name? Grey Poupée or whatever his name was.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Like, who was trying to defend comedy, but he was running into his own fallacies, like, by doing it, because, like, you can't have a bar for comedy and then say there is no bar for comedy. He kept running into the wall trying to argue that with Bob. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of Bob, I guess I didn't realize that he'd never uploaded it, but a Ripoff Verse finally uploaded the Bob and Derek bit.
I
today.
did see that. Yeah, I saw that.
Seems to be a little bit more polished, maybe, than the one that we saw before. It's still great. I wish that he wouldn't, do a couple of these things that he does, because he released like 3 videos today, and like a couple of them at least were about Derek. And anytime he would like type, the puppet would type or something, you would hear chimp noises.
Oh,
and it's like, oh man, why you gotta do that?
I think that's because I don't want to. I'm speaking here with bad memory. I think that Ethan has done that before on a stream, and that's where it came from. But I don't know for sure.
And that's fair enough. He's a good dude. He's been supportive of us and everything, and that video is fucking excellent. So like, I'm not sitting here going to call the guy a racist or anything, but I just wish he wouldn't do those things. That's all. Anyways, so yeah, this Judge Young, who
do you mean to have that off screen? I didn't know if you meant to have that off screen.
Yeah. My duty is to call it out. Appointed to the federal bench by Reagan in 1985, called the termination arbitrary and capricious. Went further than other judges in the many impoundment suits, calling the administration out for its flagrant animus against racial and sexual minorities. I'm hesitant to draw this conclusion, but I have to have an unflinching obligation to draw it, that this represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ community. Doesn't get much more clear than that.
Yeah.
Research programs based on gender identity are often unscientific. Like these are, the bullshit that they say. Have little unidentifiable return on investment and do nothing to enhance the health of any Americans.
That's actually false, but whatever.
Where's the support for that? He said. I have seen no evidence for that. Right. You're bearing down on people of color because of their color. The Constitution will not permit that. And it should not, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he just came out, basically there was also a judge in Florida. I can't remember his name. Let me see if I can find it quickly. The judge that was doing the like Stop Woke Act or something. What was it? The Stop Woke Act. This was back in 2024. A Florida U.S. District Judge, Mark Walker, struck down key parts of the so-called Stop Woke Act in his July 2024 ruling. He called the law a naked viewpoint-based regulation on free speech.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I know in my personal life who have been very doom and gloom lately have been seeing an upswing of like feeling a bit more empowered because of what's been going on, especially the No King's Day that happened and all of that.
Big hit of hopium, but
we're not. It's not a wash yet. You know what I mean? Like I know people feel that way, and I know that it's very dark and gloomy, but it's not a wash yet. We're seeing more and more that there are things that he's just not winning on. A lot of his executive orders can't be enforced. He's getting struck down with those. They're still bringing people back into the country that were deported illegally, but they're not talking about that because they don't want it to seem like a failure. ICE is running out of money. They're already like $1 billion over. So they're running out of money. California is about to make a law where anybody who's considered law enforcement at all, whether it be federal or statewide, cannot cover their faces while they're enacting their duties. So there's a lot of things that are changing that we're going to see that's going to make the job harder for these guys, and this is what we want.
Doing it to themselves because they're doing stuff like there's so many examples out there you can't even keep up with them. But like there was a 16-year-old kid in Maine who was detained in an ICE facility for 6 days. American citizen, born and raised in America, and happens to be from a Latino family. But like he was on the way to volleyball practice or whatever, and he's like honor student and shit like that. They pulled him over, fucking threw him in a fucking ICE detention facility for 6 days.
Yep.
That kind of shit is exactly what's gonna, enough of that shit is gonna bring the shit toppling down. But like, I do think that the Saturday, what we should take from it is not that we could rest on our laurels, because absolutely not. That's the thing that I'm worried is going to happen, is that people are going to go, oh, well, we did our protests and now we can relax and things are going to work out. Nope. But what I hope it does is lets people realize that for sure now we can tell that, yeah, Trump won the popular vote, barely. He won the election, but like, not because there were so many people that were pro-Trump. There were a lot, but I think really it just comes down to there was a lot of people that were not pro Kamala or pro Democrat Party, what they were offering, the little bit they were offering.
Well, I mean, you see every day there's like this segment of videos that come out from people that voted for Trump that regret it because they didn't believe the stuff we were saying. Just like a lot of people that we've interacted with here on YouTube that all of a sudden aren't talking about Trump anymore. I'm not going to name, but there's channels that I watched that were Trump this, Trump that, and all of a sudden they're not covering anything pro-Trump anymore. What they are doing is they're looking at liberal meltdowns.
When you've lost Tucker Carlson, you might have a problem.
Oh, that clip is so fucking golden. There's more than one, but there's one that like...
When he talked to, first, he fucking made Ted Cruz look like a bitch, which isn't hard to do.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I have the clip here if we want to watch it.
Yeah, let's check it out.
All right, here we go. Let me...
The one with, I saw some with Steve Bannon too, and Bannon's just like stone-faced trying not to react.
I mean, again, I'm not pro Tucker Carlson, but... Let me just say that this is. Go ahead.
People can be right for the wrong reasons, right? Like, and that's what his deal is. Is that he talks about? He calls out in the clip with Bannon. He's like, "Oh, Fox News is just fire hose blasting old people with misinformation." It's like, holy shit, he said the thing. That's true. But wait, didn't he also? He was the #1 fire hose blaster for several years.
Yeah.
You know, and it's only now that he's not working for him that he's willing to call that out.
Freaking, what's her name? I don't even know who it is now. I have to look it up. But someone else was like. I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene was like, Fox News is propaganda. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, anyway, let's watch this clip.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
Let me switch it over.
How many people live in Iran? hold on. Does he have a fucking cold sore?
Oh, maybe.
It looks like Tucker has a cold sore.
Let me know if you can hear this, okay?
Yeah, I can
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92.
It's so funny because I almost thought of this as like, it's almost like a sketch from SNL, the way this is going down. Like, it's just funny. Let's just look at their faces.
Honestly, that is not a valid criticism. And like, I don't think, I mean, you know, we shouldn't want to topple fucking countries, you know, but I mean, like in the context of what they're talking about, like it's not a huge deal that he doesn't, but like I do agree that it's funny that he kind of gets him on that.
Well, but he gets him on more though. That's the thing is, as we go through this, he gets him on more. But this is what started it like unraveling. It's like the thread on the sweater before it starts like pulling apart.
Topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay.
92 million.
Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
Always getting defensive.
So like so that's what I'm saying. Like he moves on to, so he says you don't know anything about the country, right?
Right.
I would say knowing the population is one of the first things you probably would learn because if you go to Wikipedia, it's like the second or third thing on the Wikipedia
you're right.
page.
I take it back. That is actually one of the first things you should learn, even if all you're doing is a basic Wikipedia brush up on the thing. You should fucking read that.
You should know. Like I would say that like most people who are looking up things about their state probably know the population of their state or their city or something like that. So if you're a politician that is calling for sort of this strike on a country, did you not look that up before you did? I mean, it doesn't have to be Wikipedia. Did you not do any research on it? Anyway.
Morgan, this is actually like he actually gives context aside, because there's a lot of context that does make it that needs to be discussed, but like just in a bubble, this is a good example of what journalism should be in these days.
I also want to point out that this is what happens when you start to bleed off believers. Like when people who were totally part of your movement start to disbelieve your ability to do what you're supposed to be doing, they start to bleed off a little bit. Tucker Carlson, although, isn't as big as he used to be, he still has a lot of fans that watch him online. Yeah. And the thing is, he's talking to the community that used to support, or some of them might still support, like Cruz and Trump and DeSantis and these guys.
Well, I mean, him and Trump are taking shots at each other on Twitter and shit.
Yeah.
They're not friendly anymore.
So this is a net positive for us, not because we should be team Tucker Carlson or anything like that, but the more infighting that happens, the more support they bleed off, the harder it is for them to do the things that they want to do. That's the
exact same concept as Comicsgate and Rippaverse, guys. We just gotta, whoever is the one that's not winning, we want to root for them so that they get up and knock the other one down, and then switch to rooting for the other one. basically. Till
they are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even. You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who claims anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump.
I'm not saying that.
What was that? Sorry, Dane.
Tucker makes it real hard to be in his corner even for a moment whenever he does that fucking laugh.
Yeah, I want to point out this is an interesting position that Tucker introduces that I didn't think about. And I've never thought of him as being a particularly smart person, but this shift here when he makes this comment, when Cruz makes this comment about Trump and Iran, and Tucker turns it around on him and starts to expose like why what's happening doesn't make sense from the perspective of what Cruz is saying. It's actually a master move. Like it's a big move here.
Tucker Carlson, I think, is a very smart man. That's kind of partly what makes him so insidious, because it's not like he's just an idiot that's repeating shit because he doesn't understand what he's saying. He fully understands the shit that he's propagandizing at all times.
And watch what he does here when he backs Cruz in on this comment, because I think this is really important.
Murder Donald Trump.
I'm not saying that.
They're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
They're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation.
See, that's the point. Oh, hey, what's up, Ryan? Sorry.
Hey, Ryan, what's up, man?
Oh, wait, he can't hear us?
Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Can you hear Tucker Carlson?
I guess he can't.
Okay.
So Cruz talks about like Iran planning to go after Trump, basically, like to murder Trump or whatever.
Well, so yeah, they're supposedly Netanyahu claims that there was two at least assassination attempts that they ordered or whatever from Iran of Trump. I haven't seen any. But
Tucker is saying to Cruz, you don't actually believe that because that's not why you're doing what you're doing. Like, if you believe that, we would be having a different conversation. You know what I mean? If that was something that you truly believed, we would be doing something other than assisting Israel, right? And so this is where it gets really interesting, because he again sort of gets him against the wall, and Cruz doesn't know how to respond to this.
For military strikes against them in retaliation. If you really believe that.
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we.
See, that was
because in his mind, and in a lot of American politicians' mind, we basically just are. Us and Israel are the same thing.
Right. So look at Tucker's face, though. He just realizes he got a good clip out of this because he uses "we" here, and it's really important that this is something that the administration has said is not happening with our assistance. So,
with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel. High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Oh, God.
So, he literally, just backed him into the corner on that one. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Crazy.
Ryan,
can you hear us, Ryan?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Yes, we can.
Cool.
Hello. How goes it?
Hello. Yeah, not bad. Why was Tucker Carlson interviewing Al Lewis?
Why was Tucker Carlson making me not disagree with him entirely? That's weird.
Yeah, he made Cruz look like a clown. And I mean, look, Cruz does that kind of on his own anyway, but when you're going, I guess he didn't realize he was going into a lion's den. You know what I mean? Like, they're used to softball conversations with those guys.
What that shows is that the entire time he was on Fox News, he could have been doing this to every single motherfucker that came on there if he was a real journalist, right? Like, and let's not forget that this is a guy who gassed the fuck out of Trump. He was one of his number one supporters for years. Meanwhile, on January 6th, he's texting about how he fucking hates Trump. Those texts came out during that investigation, right? Like, so this is somebody who literally will just fucking say the exact opposite of what he believes for whoever's paying his check, I guess.
So in a way, it's kind of more impressive to be a complete coward against for the Republicans than it is to challenge them, because challenging them when they're just being wrong all the time is pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just pushing them. The only thing that stops you from doing that is you're scared of access or whatever.
Well, the thing about Tucker Carlson is kind of interesting is he probably knows all of their tactics because he was very close with them for many, many, many years. He probably knows all of their, like, I won't say all of their dirty laundry, but a lot of their dirty laundry.
Bodies are buried, I bet. Yeah.
He what now? What was that?
He knows where some bodies are buried.
Yeah, yeah. So the problem is they deplatformed him. Like, he's no longer part of the machine that they had running. He's probably not getting the same money he was getting before. He's probably not connected to the same people anymore. This is a guy who has a lot of secrets and has no reason to withhold those secrets anymore.
Yeah, he's kind of a rogue right now, huh?
Yeah.
That's an interesting X factor. I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
That's why you should never, ever, like, if you're doing dirt, like what they're doing, like all the evil shit they're doing, and you have people involved with it, you can't let them out. Like, Tucker Carlson, again, was a big part of the machine in Trump's first term. And they let him go because they thought they didn't need him anymore. And now he's like, well, no, I'm gonna come after you and I'm gonna destroy you, kind of thing. And
previously, he was politically aligned with them and getting paid. Now he's not getting paid and he's only semi-politically aligned with them as they go and do things he don't want to do. If they stayed on book, if they stayed doing exactly what he wanted, he wouldn't be criticizing them anyway.
I mean, what we're seeing is a split with this Iran thing. The Israel-Iran thing is creating a pretty big fucking schism in MAGA, as it should, because the guy, ran on,
no wars, no wars.
And then here we are, very close to just traipsing on into quagmire that could very well end in nuclear fire.
This is the very worst of both worlds for anyone who isn't MAGA, because either America goes to war with Iran, which is bad, or America doesn't go to war with Iran and Trump keeps on top, which is also very bad. So,
well, I mean, I don't know. I pushed back against the second part of that because if we saw with the parade and stuff, I don't know that I can't help but wonder if some of this I've seen several people kind of trying to distance from Trump in the last few days. I can't help but wonder if some of it is just the optics of that fucking parade versus the optics of No King's Day.
Well, a bunch of people didn't show up. The freaking what was it? Mike Johnson didn't show up.
No, he said he had to sell a house or some shit.
Yeah, like there were people that should have been there on paper that weren't there. What else could have been more? Like, think about this logically. What could have been more important on a Saturday afternoon for this administration than to have all hands on deck? Nothing. There should have been nothing more important than that.
I will say this,
but a bunch of key people weren't there.
I will say this, and when I say it, follow me till I finish. But we got to be grateful for Pete Hegseth right now, okay? Because he was in charge of that parade, and apparently, allegedly, reports are that Trump is fucking furious at him, and he just keeps railing on him about the parade. Which hopefully I hope means that they're not focusing on, the Iran thing too much.
Again, the more things that are not working out for them, whether it be little gnats in their faces, it's just better for everybody else. It's just better for everybody.
I mean, they've definitely shown how chaotic and incompetent they are at everything at this point. We knew that, we saw it in the first term. This is, because of the level of aggression with the moves that they're making this term, though, it becomes even more not only dangerous, which it is that, but just flagrantly obvious that they don't fucking have a handle on anything that they're doing.
They learned a lot of lessons during the first term about how to get stuff done, how they failed to get stuff done during the first term. The trouble is, there's also a lot of lessons that they didn't learn, and that's what's bringing them down now. So,
well, you can't, dog can't change spots or whatever, right? These are fucking fail upward, born with silver spoons in their fucking mouths, shitheads that only they see profit over people, and they see, they see loyalty as especially Trump, loyalty is the main thing. And of course, his terms of what loyalty means can shift and are pretty fucking nebulous anyway. So you just, it becomes a network of people that is just a fucking clown show. But clown show with, their fingers on buttons that can end lives. Is the thing.
I will say, if there are any good satirists out there who manage to do a version of "Rain on My Parade" with Trump singing it to Hegseth, that would be something.
Great. I think Hegseth was testifying today again and was just completely destroyed by most of the questions that were coming his way.
He has no idea what he's fucking. I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes if he's intentionally obfuscating or if he's just kind of doesn't know what he's doing. I think that he was probably instructed to obfuscate. and then sometimes that just comes naturally because he's a moron. But I don't have someone singing in the rain, but I do have this.
And it's very cool.
The military parade is a flop.
Think Joe Biden would do this? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Oh God! They keep trying to they keep saying it's a military parade, but it really wasn't. It was it was for Trump's ego. It was a birthday parade for Trump. Is essentially.
I mean, it was planned as the 250th anniversary for a long time, but he basically that's another thing is he essentially, this is how pathetic it is. He attached himself to it, and the only reason he's able to do that is because he's the commander in chief.
But I don't think that the plan was always what we saw as a parade. I don't think that was always the plan.
The parade was not part of it, as far as the parade was, but there was going to be a celebration, and mainly for
and that's fine. Look, I don't have an issue with that, but I think the parade and then him sort of taking credit and swearing in cadets and stuff, it was just what are we doing?
Can you make me sick beat of that? I will fucking try it.
But I was just looking here. I just out of curiosity went through and looked up all the stuff that Trump has tried to do in the last, what is it? How many days has it been? 60 days? I don't know. 100 days, whatever it is.
Remember whenever just Elon and Trump were just bitching at each other, and that was crazy. That was crazy enough, man. Shit has just leveled up a few times since.
It was only about a week ago as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and just a couple of weeks before that, we were still talking about the what is it? Abrego Garcia coming back when he got brought back in. So, I mean, here we go. But these are all the things that he's tried to do that have been either stopped or paused or have been hurdled for him. Overhauling federal elections, ending birthright citizenship, ban on transgender people serving in the military, which keeps flip-flopping, blocking gender-affirming care for minors, which keeps flip-flopping. There was something about that today as well. Transgender inmate transfers and gender care defunding, restructuring U.S. aid, NIH, and federal workforce and DOGE and buyouts, legal challenges to DOE's DEI cancellation policies, blocking access to Treasury data, targeting law firms, freeze and rescinding of government grants and funds, the big beautiful spending bill, which probably isn't going to get passed, 90 deals in 90 days, which didn't happen, immigration funding tied to state cooperation, which hasn't happened, wind energy projection halt, which still hasn't happened. I mean, there's a list of stuff that he's tried to do that he's failed on, but the problem is they move so quickly to the next thing, you don't have a chance to see that whatever they were doing before didn't come to fruition. You know what I mean? So, yeah, totally winning. And now you can buy your Trump phone too.
Mm-hmm. Which was announced just a few days ago and will be out in September, but they don't have a prototype model to show you.
Right. Just a picture. A nice little AI picture they made. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a Chinese-made phone that's already been established. It can't be made in the United States, so it's not going to be a U.S.-made phone. They hope eventually it'll be made in the United States, but they can't make it now. So apparently for them, it's okay to use China for shipping and manufacturing when they want to do it. But when anybody else, any small business wants to do it, that's not okay.
Just came across this. Ted Cruz thought he had something here.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's that he wants to destroy Iran, just wipe them all out. Is that what he's saying by this?
Yeah, I mean, essentially.
Implication.
Because that was the whole thing, is the Death Star was destroyed, and everybody was killed on most everybody was killed on the Death Star.
Yeah.
On the first Death Star, it was everybody.
Yeah.
So
they don't think, man. They make these memes. They don't think. Everything to them is just brain rot.
I'll do a Star Wars meme. That'll get the kids back on my side.
Well, Ted Cruz is the perfect example of a conservative nerd, somebody who likes the media but doesn't understand it. I mean, his favorite film is The Princess Bride, and everybody that made that film thinks he's a loser because they're all left of him.
That's a good transition point. Honestly, it's an excellent transition because speaking of guys who love a particular kind of media but apparently just didn't get it. This is a thing, apparently.
Oh, God. Oh, the excitement and then the disappointment. I love it. It's great.
Wait,
why the fuck would anybody want to talk to Matt Walsh about anything?
See, I only saw this. I didn't know any follow-up. You know something?
There's a follow-up. Yeah, there is a follow-up. Hold on, I'll get it.
I was just gonna like dig into it live and see what the hell we could find, but
So apparently Matt Walsh has made a couple of videos about Star Wars. I haven't really watched them.
As far as I'm aware, they just say like Star Wars is for children. Is that basically just
yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me pull this down here.
they canceled his meetup. Oh,
Yeah, I've got the video here. Hold on.
Look at that face, the joy. Like that's the fucking soy face that they fucking use as a meme. That he's doing soy face over fucking Matt Walsh.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's do this. All right, so this is the follow-up to that. He was excited because he was going to debate Matt Walsh about Star Wars, and he was ready to go in and have that conversation. Let's see what happened. This is from yesterday afternoon. No, yesterday morning, I think.
Damn. I didn't check my emails when I woke up, but Matt Walsh has to reschedule. So for all those that were excited, I was excited. I woke up, I didn't check my email. And it's 11:05 in the morning right now. Our meeting's supposed to be at, our debate's supposed to be at 11. But they sent an email 3 hours ago saying that he has to unfortunately cancel. Something came up, and but they're still looking forward to doing it, and they want to meet sometime in the future. So,
I mean, honestly, it probably is because of all the shit going on that Matt Walsh was just like, I can't be talking about Star Wars right now. I've got more important shit to fucking be a fascist about.
I also want to point out how sad is it that you have someone. Look, I don't like this guy. I think he's a piece of shit, but he does know a lot about like Star Wars history and stuff. How is it that he wants to go and debate somebody who probably has only known like the most obvious things that have ever happened in Star Wars? Like, what is that going to look like? How is that going to work out? You know what I mean? Like, do you think Matt Walsh is going to let you come on his show and humiliate him about Star Wars?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that if they had done it, we would be watching it right now. But I definitely would want to see how that
I will 100% watch it when it comes out, for sure.
I just don't think I understand how he thinks it's going to be a positive for him, because there's no way he's not going to be embarrassed on Matt Walsh's own show.
Yeah. Because what Matt Walsh would do if he's really smart about it is to invite him on with the pretense of like, we're going to talk about Star Wars and whether or not it's for kids or whatever. Matt Walsh doesn't know enough about Star Wars to debate a Star Wars expert, right? So what he's going to do is he's going to jump into like social stuff, things that he has studied, things that he knows, and Star Wars theory is not going to be able to respond to that because he doesn't know all of those things. And he's going to sit there while Matt Walsh makes a fool of him. That's what's going to happen. Like, he'll come on there thinking he's going to debate something about Anakin, and he's going to start talking about, like, how Star Wars affects the youth because we've done this study on kids and they have watched this kind of media and blah, blah, blah. That's what he's going to do, and Star Wars theory isn't going to know how to respond to that.
Alternatively, he's just going to keep pushing the point that Star Wars is for kids by pointing out all the many hundreds of different ways that Star Wars is for kids.
Yeah.
All the toys, all the accessories.
Matt Walsh isn't 100% wrong. Star Wars is, in a lot of ways, geared towards children, but it's not only for children. That's the thing. No. So what Star Wars theory is doing is he's walking into this conversation to try and prove that Star Wars is for adults, and but he knows for a fact that's not true as well.
He's going to end up making his point for him, but he's going to be like, oh, you know, isn't it kind of weird that you're an adult and you care so much about this?
He's going to have to defend himself personally. Yeah, 100%. That's the thing is, like, he's going to probably argue that everybody that says they love Star Wars for what it was did so when they were children. And that's the reality of it. All of the love that they have for Star Wars came from the movies that they saw when they were kids.
I'm pretty sure Matt Walsh he's shit on anime and video games at different points.
Yeah.
And I think, like, which is crazy considering his fucking, you know, his demographic that he appeals to, because they love that shit.
They'll be like, yeah, you love Star Wars when you saw the movies as children, but when you got older, you hated the stuff you saw, which would defeat the argument that Star Wars is made for adults, that it's primarily made for children. There's a lot of ways he could go about it. I can guarantee that Matt Walsh will not debate Star Wars theory on the nuance of Star Wars. It's going to be some other conversation that Star Wars theory is
the
not
cultural, optics or whatever, some shit like that. But I mean, yeah, like somebody said that he's, the theory only wants Star Wars to be about lightsabers and you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's more about so much more than that. It's about, well, as Andor showed, fascism. And it's about Saw Gerrera.
You have no idea where I am.
But, you know, the reality is Star Wars theory, this is the crazy part, in order for him to win an argument with Matt Walsh on this issue, he would have to admit all of the things that we've said about Star Wars is true. Like what it represents.
Right. I remember now. He did say Revenge of the Sith is the worst film ever made, which is a crazy take to have in the Star Wars franchise.
I still don't believe that that's the like. I think that is the surface of the argument.
That's the bait.
Yeah, everything else that Matt Walsh says is going to be about other things. He's going to dive into stuff that isn't Star Wars. And Star Wars theory is not. Look, he's going to go. I almost feel like he is overconfident about what this is going to be, and I truly believe that's going to be the downfall. He's going to go into it. This may actually hurt Star Wars theory's credibility if he goes in this and loses. Yeah,
let's do it.
He couldn't even debate the merits of Star Wars amongst his own sort of social circle.
I remember that clip too. That's funny.
They tore him apart, and they weren't the experts that he is, and they managed to tear him apart on that one simple thing. So what's he going to do against seasoned debater Matt Walsh, who is a piece of shit, but is better at debating than Star Wars theory?
True. Yeah, 100%. And he's going to do it on his terms. You're not going to go on his show and make him do something on your terms. It's going to be the other way around. You're going to do it on his terms.
And he's of that age where Matt Walsh is one of those people who thought the prequel sucked.
Right.
And Star Wars theories of that age who thought the prequels were brilliant. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that debate is going to be, but I am under the impression that the delay was probably so they could frame the argument, or like you said, he's probably looking at other stuff that's more important. I don't watch Matt Walsh, so I don't know what he talked about yesterday that would have caused him to like not chat with Star Wars theory. Matter of fact, I'm gonna look at his channel and see what he did yesterday. I'm just curious. Let's see, Matt Walsh. All right, so that would have been a day ago. He talked about the Dodgers game opening with national anthem in Spanish because the racism drove him to do a video. Women publicly shamed. What was that?
Hang on, the Dodgers game.
Yeah,
in Spanish. What city are the Dodgers in?
Right. Yeah.
Los Angeles? That English name, Los Angeles?
And then he goes, woman publicly shames father in New York Times op-ed. LGBT judge lets child killer walk free in shocking court decision. Watch these disturbing Disney adults pretend to be normal. So no, he didn't have anything super important yesterday. Like, there's nothing there that looks like because he does a live stream. The live stream was the judge letting the killer walk free or whatever. That's like an hour and something long, but that includes all the clips that I just mentioned. So he just decided not to talk to Star Wars theory.
What time does he stream?
Let's see. It would have been. Let me look at the time on the video. It doesn't say what time, but it was yesterday morning. It was like yesterday in the middle of the day.
I was just wondering if it was a live debate or if it was a pre-record, because if it's a pre-record, then theory's really in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know if it's live or not, semi-live, but he does film the morning of because all of that news was from yesterday, so it had to have been like from that day. But so he didn't back out to talk about any important stuff. It was just Disney adults, which that would have been the perfect chance to have Star Wars theory on because you could have just segued from that into your opinion about Star Wars. Like, I don't get it. Okay, whatever. It doesn't seem like there was anything important. He just backed out on Star Wars theory.
So I wanted to pivot after a brief meme.
Right.
Poor guy. Yeah, he was a legend.
Yeah.
Many bottles. To this other thing. So the Snyder cult is they're not doing so well right now.
Yeah.
They are having a bad time and making bad art.
AI art.
Yep. It's incredibly cringe. Why does Superman need to roll up his sleeve to show his bicep? I mean, you can see it pretty clearly in the other one. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I can't.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're roboted out there.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything you said. You roboted.
So there's that. So recently there was some of these. There's only a handful of these guys. They're really loud and annoying whenever it comes to stuff like this. The Superman movie that's coming out. They make themselves known, but apparently there was like some effort to try to encourage people to, I guess they were going to see the movie as early they could and then spoil it for everybody to try and, I don't know, but it's on track to do better than any movie of the year so far. So I don't think they're going to have a good time with that. Plus James Gunn just like kind of laughed it off.
Yeah, so essentially the Snyder cult on Reddit decided that they want to go see the movie as early as possible, or at least line up to buy tickets early as possible so that other people can't get tickets, because it locks them out from buying tickets for like 5 minutes or something like that. I don't even
Did they not realize that still buys tickets?
Yeah.
I don't understand what the fucking logic is there.
The plan was, and if I remember correctly, the way cinemas work, this guy was asking them to reserve all the tickets in a screen, but not complete the purchase.
Right.
So that the cinema would show them as all sold out.
But that only works for like 5 minutes, and then it kicks you out. You can't sit there on that screen for longer than like 5 minutes. So,
well, yeah.
So the other thing is, but he also wanted people to go and see it so they would spoil it. So it was a contradictory thing. Like, does he want people to buy tickets or not? But yeah, so the weird thing about it is they want to try and spoil the movie for the fans who are probably aware of how to avoid spoilers at this point, because anyone that wants to see a big superhero movie knows, like, the week of the movie coming out, you spend as little time as possible on social media because you're going to see spoilers no matter what. So, I mean, it's just kind of dumb.
I mean, and it's just bizarre, like on its face. Like we did a Fapcast a long time ago, comparing. Well, I mean, it was ostensibly about like what's the deal with these people that want to fire James Gunn, because it wasn't immediately clear until you do about 5 minutes or less research that it's the Snyder cult that's saying that. And so we were like, well, let's look at their track records, right? And comparing, Snyder's films and releases and box office and everything with James Gunn. It's just like it doesn't even make any sense. Criticals as well, critics and audience scores, every single fucking metric there is, James Gunn dwarfs Zack Snyder's fucking success. You know what I mean? And I don't know, just became. I think that these guys don't realize that they were used. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I'm guessing that there's some of them that are still content creators that are still doing a grift on it or whatever, because that's all they know how to do. But like, man, it was shown that there was I forget the percentage, but it was far more, like every campaign on the internet is going to have some degree of bots going on, right? But like the Snyder movement, Snyder released the Snyder Cut, whatever, was found to have like far more than just any average movement in terms of bots. So like anytime a real person would post something, the bots would amplify that or whatever, and it just wasn't organic from the beginning, and it's just kind of, honestly, in a way, it's sad. I mean, I know they're just shitlords, and they've called for people to die and stuff like that, and made fun of his, all kinds of shit. But like, in a way, it's just kind of sad, I guess, that these guys can't fucking move on and appreciate what looks like a fucking amazing Superman movie. And it's gonna be I think they said it's on track to do like 155 million opening weekend so far, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I've never known anything like this Snyder cult to go on for just so long, while also not actually supporting Zack Snyder's work. It's like not only do they want everybody else to fail at making a Superman film, they want Snyder to fail at making every other kind of film that isn't a Superman film.
Yes.
Right. Which he doesn't want to. That's the thing that, like, and some of them actually believe, they say that Gunn is somehow fucking, pushed Snyder out. Snyder quit in 2017. James Gunn was brought in 2022. Like, there's such a fucking vast difference of time that it doesn't even make any sense to think shit like that, and yet people think that. Yeah, where were they at?
But also, James Gunn and Zack Snyder are friends. They literally are friends. So if James Gunn wanted Zack Snyder to come and do a movie, he would. And if Zack Snyder wanted to do something, he could surely reach out to James Gunn and say, hey, I'd like to do this project. I mean, there's nothing stopping that from happening, except the infighting in the fans makes it so that Zack and James probably know that's not the best for the upcoming thing, is to have him involved. So if these guys would just like say, hey, James, we want Zack to do a movie. Can you make a movie happen or whatever? That would be different. But they're actively trying to make it fail, which means that Zack and James are probably thinking it's best we never do anything together at this point.
And I'm sure as a point of pride, Zack Snyder doesn't want James Gunn's Superman film to do better than his, but also I don't think he wants it to fail. I mean, I think he would be quite happy if it made like $10 less than his attempt. But there's no animosity between those two men. So
that was Night of, I mean, sorry, Day of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead.
Right. Yep. Script by James Gunn, directed by Zack Snyder. That was when, Snyder's instincts, his first movie, so his instincts had not developed into Snyderist instincts, and it's actually pretty well directed for the most part.
Good cast too, really good cast.
Yeah. So there's that, and then did you guys see this? T-Man. Unfortunately, Jared Leto.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm not excited about this He-Man thing at all.
I really hope that this is the end of Jared Leto, obviously because he's fucking goddamn predator and he just doesn't need to be in a position of social or power or have any celebrity to use that to that end, but also just because, man, this fucking Tron Ares thing bums me the fuck out. It bummed me out whenever I realized he was in it because it looked awesome other than that. So no, this is just a He-Man movie. I don't know who it's directed by.
Yeah, I can't remember who it's directed by, but did you both watch the Kevin Smith Netflix series?
Yes. Well, I watched the first one. I haven't watched the Revolution.
It's really good. I love that series.
Fucking great.
Yeah,
excellent.
It's really good. Yeah, it's more adult, obviously, because the original cartoon. If you've watched that since you were a child, like any time in the last 10 years, you'll realize just how kiddie it was.
Travis Knight, who directed Bumblebee, is directing.
Yeah, I've seen that now. Holy shit!
It's going to be Amazon, MGM Studios, Mattel Films. The same production and advertising team behind Barbie is working on it.
Alison Brie, Idris Elba, Morena Baccarin, Sashir Zameda, James Purefoy. Holy shit! And then sadly, Jared Leto is Skeletor.
Yeah, heck of a cast. I don't know why I'm not excited about it. I just think I don't know.
It could go either way. Like He-Man is one of those things. It's like, to me, it's like Transformers as a kid, where I was into the toys way more than the cartoon. Because that's what they were really about, was the toys. The cartoons were just an advertisement for that. But then watching, I watched Revelations is the first one, right? First season.
Yeah.
I was fucking blown away by the first episode of that. I was looking at how all the chuds were talking about how it's a bait and switch and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, what's that about? And I watched it, and it's like, holy shit, dude! Kevin Smith fucking did something cool here, and the just all through the first season. Maybe the second one sucks. I haven't seen it. I don't know, but man, that final episode of that first season, that battle was one of the fucking coolest, most epic animated battles I've ever seen.
Honestly, I would say the second season is better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second season was better. I agree with that.
Okay, good to know. And I mean, and it was just so fucking stupid on its face. The Chud's acting like, oh, it's a bait and switch. They made it about her and took He-Man out. It's like, obviously, yeah, he fucking, spoiler alert, he dies, quote unquote, dies in the first episode. He's gonna be back. He's back within like a couple episodes in some form, and then and it creates the excuse to have the biggest, most epic fucking I have the power ever in the final episode, and it's all worth it. It's all good. But
I also can't believe that any of them are actually He-Man fans, because the original cartoon, by today's standards, doesn't hold up.
There's right. That's what's so impressive about it, is that Kevin Smith took lore that really is just kind of barely thought out shit, just slapped onto a toy to sell a toy. It's like there's no real, there's nothing to it. It's not very substantive. And Kevin Smith made it fucking cool. He made these really kind of goofy concepts and characters have some pathos and characterization and stuff. And yeah, he really should be praised for that shit. So.
I mean, one of the things about the original cartoon, which I keep finding astounding, and you don't realize until you watch it back, but the network or somebody dictated that He-Man wasn't allowed to hit anybody. Oh. So he doesn't hit people. He throws people and he throws things at people, but he never hits anyone in the original cartoon.
I never paid attention to that, but that's
Weird.
interesting.
That's weird. Yeah, I did never notice that. Another thing I wanted to look at is just this more recent, because for anybody who doesn't know, they continue working on special effects in effects heavy movies until within days sometimes of the film releasing.
Yeah.
So you got stuff like this that looks far, far better than it did in the trailer whenever it first dropped. It actually looks really good.
The eyes are crazy. You can see like the eyelashes and everything.
I mean, it not only looks like metal, but it looks like it's slightly tarnished metal in certain places. The detail on that is incredible. Like on the forehead, you can just see where it's not quite perfect. And yeah,
it's you know, these guys know this. That's the thing about, you know, Nerd Erotic, all these guys, they fucking know that. If they really cared about, you know, these movies and stuff, then they just wouldn't call that shit out. They would call it out whenever other people, you know, oh, look how bad the effects are. They would say, oh, well, they're going to keep working on the effects, but you know, it's a grift, as we've said a million times now. And yeah, it's still going to be a girl boss apparently. But so go ahead.
Like in the when they used the original Fantastic Four Silver Surfer, it was always the still photographs. It was the glamour shots that weren't from the film.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that they have to do some work on this to pull it off, and I don't think that they were going to just like half-ass the silver goddamn surfer in the Fantastic Four movie. I have a lot of confidence this movie's going to be, you know, at least really good, if not like amazing or whatever. But,
I think it looks like it's going to get the spirit of the comics from the bits and pieces that I've seen.
There's also the disingenuous reaction to the Little Caesars trailer. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's a trailer. Let me pull it up here.
This is another like advert trailer, or is it?
Yeah, it's a commercial. No, it's like a commercial trailer for Little Caesars. Let me.
Oh, yeah, Clownfish was the ones I was looking into the most with that first one. I don't know what their deal was with that series, the He-Man, but they were really fucking crazy.
From memory, they said that they had heard that it was a bait and switch, and Kevin Smith said, "No, it's not."
That's what it was. You're right.
Yeah,
and they were calling him a liar. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the commercial from Little Caesars that is blending in stuff for the commercial with stuff from the movie, but it's already been confirmed that the thing they're complaining about isn't from the movie. So here we go. We'll watch it. There's nothing wrong with this commercial, but it's just chuds being chuds. Here we go.
Yeah.
We at Little Caesars know the Fantastic Four deserve a fantastic pizza. It's one pizza with 4 different topping combinations.
Pretty cool gimmick.
Oh, I'm not a topping! Not a topping!
Yeah.
See Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four First Steps in theaters July 25th.
What was that?
Gigantor like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
So is that not in the movie?
No.
Gigantor?
So this right here, if you look at this is clearly done just for this commercial.
Okay, yeah.
Like you can see in the rendering and stuff that it's just,
Right.
and the Little Caesars guy is in his hand.
Kind of disappointed that it's not going to, because that's, you know, the infamous cover of the first issue.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing you can see here is that it looks like they got the Little Caesars guy in the hand, the Little Caesars ad over here on the right. So I think this part is from the commercial. Like, if you look here, all of this looks like it was made just for the commercial.
That color, the blue in the center of the screen, where's that coming from? That's coming from somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
But not.
Which means this is probably something else that happens, and they kind of superimposed all of this.
I'm wondering if it's Mole Man, because there was a rumor of Mole Man.
Yeah. But then you see this next scene is from the actual movie, and you can see the difference in the quality. Watch.
See Marvel
See there? The car and the detail and all this. So it's a shift in all of this. This is all it looks like. Yeah, what was that? Go ahead.
Johnny Storm is sort of floating above Gigantor in the previous shot, and there he is coming in from behind. So yeah, it's obviously a completely different shot.
So this is from the movie, and over here is from the Little Caesars. Look, they did a good job of sort of making it work
Sure,
as a commercial
I
or
was
whatever.
convinced that this was. I was like, holy shit, Gigantor's in the fucking movie. What?
Yeah, this is the classic cover that everybody loves with the Fantastic Four. They've done it a couple times now, but this is, as far as we know, this is not a scene in the movie. This is just for this commercial. So, but Chuds are going off on this, claiming that this looks really bad and this is indicative of what the movie is going to be. And it's like, bro, it's a fucking Little Caesars.
Everybody relax, because when the movie comes out and they realize that they were wrong, they're going to make a video and say, "Hey guys, we were wrong about that."
Oh, Chariot's in the waiting room, by the way. Just there's that.
Chariot's here. What?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Hey. Sorry.
Hello.
Hope you weren't waiting too long.
No, that's okay. I was as usual enjoying the conversation.
The other thing I will say though is as we've pointed out, if Gigantor is in the film, that shot won't be from the finished VFX version.
No.
It'll be an earlier version that they made, that they gave to Little Caesars to do their bit for. So either way, that's not how the monster's going to finally look. Although it does remind me of somebody, Gigantor, and I can't think who. Never mind. But yeah, it's so weird because we've had. I mean, this has been a thing in film advertising for decades of them making a goofy tie-in.
But they're running out of stuff to complain about. That's the problem.
True.
Is they keep
True.
having to scrape lower and lower and lower because there's not as much out there for them to be mad. So they're manufacturing things to be upset with. Like the idea that Nerdrotic, I made a video about this, I think the other day, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, but Nerdrotic and them never mentioned anything about a drag queen being in Ironheart. It's an entire subplot in the series. But they're inside guys that told them months ago that the whole series was shit, never mentioned a story about a drag queen Robin Hood thing in Ironheart. That would have been gold for them. So they're running out of stuff. It's like getting more and more performative from their position.
I think it's funny as hell to be like doing the equivalent of seeing like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy of like Darth Vader and being like, oh wow, the new Star Wars looks really bad.
Yeah.
I wonder if that happened when they did Batman Returns McDonald's crossover. I wonder if there was a tie-in commercial there.
Was that the one with the cups? With little
Yeah.
cups? Oh, shit.
No, that was, or was that Forever? No, I think that was Batman Forever. The Batman Returns one was a weird
Oh, I
tie-in
love those
because
cups.
the
Like I had them for years. One of them, the last one I had broke like a few years ago, but yeah.
I think that was Forever, but I know people really were weirded out. But the Batman Returns one was the prize box was black with a bat symbol on it, and it looked really good. But the film then was so dark that McDonald's, I think, lost a fortune on it.
I was about to say it's like a little toy of like the penguin biting off the guy's nose or something.
Yeah, there was an issue with that because the most Tim Burton version of Batman was the second film. The first one was still sort of corporately overseen. The second one, they kind of just let him go crazy.
Whenever the studio goes, "Hey, Tim Burton, we love how successful that movie was. We fucking love it. We want you to just do it again. Just go ahead and do your whole Tim Burton thing." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna."
Well, the other thing was with the original Batman film is that they didn't plan on toys or anything, so all the toys they made for it were really rushed out last minute. So this was sort of an overcorrection on that as well, because people were desperate for the toys.
I think that me alone, I made up for that in with the fucking Batman toys that I bought as a kid. Fucking all the different costumes and gimmicks and shit. I got a lot of that crap. Well, so. This is a conversation we can have here. And I'm glad you're here, Chariot. How's it going, by the way?
Oh, it's going good. Yeah. I mean, a little busy. You guys know I'm always running around these days, but I think a lot of people are having a tough time right now. So it's just what's in the water. Big news for trans people today. More anti-trans hatred. We love to see it. I'm sorry. We hate to see it.
Right. Sarcastically love to see it.
Yeah.
So did you want to talk about that? Because
it's just
a topic that kind of definitely begins with that issue.
It's a tough topic. It's pretty hardcore. So
yeah, I hate to because a lot of my some of my best friends are cisgender, but cishet people are having a very normal Pride Month. It seems. A lot of the like anti-Pride content seems to have had its energy be co-opted by like an actual anti-gay, anti-transgender movement. And that's kind of where the attention is going.
Yeah.
I've been sort of wondering, because I've been watching DJ, I've been watching some of your videos where you've mentioned a few times that it's a little conspicuous that a lot of these channels are not doing like Pride content. It's a little odd because some of them have before, and some of them were doing more, before Pride Month. You'd think this would be the time, but it's a little odd because I think I'm trying to figure out why, like what exactly it is, because
I don't know either.
A few competing reasons, right? Like on the one hand, the old arguments don't work anymore,
right?
Because the old argument was like, well, we hate having this shoved down our throats or whatever, which is, a bit homoerotic, to borrow an observation from Dwayne McDuffie. But I think that, like, that tendency to say that it doesn't really work anymore as an argument, because like now, right, like now we're dealing with so much direct concern trolling about like the content of what the pro-trans movement is advocating,
right?
That like the idea that they would prefer to be checked out doesn't really make that much sense, because that's at odds with the idea that they're protecting children, like you can't really make those arguments at the same time in a coherent fashion. So it's a bit difficult. And also I think like sort of as a mirror of what happened with the George Floyd riots, like there's suddenly a big turn where the content has to mirror the fact that like a lot of Americans are not okay with what the political right here wants to do. They don't necessarily anticipate or understand it, but when they feel it, they go, "Oh, you guys are evil. This is really bad, actually."
Dane, you're muted. I don't know if you're trying to say something or not. Is he there? I heard him say something and then he just stopped.
Sorry, somebody had opened my door.
Oh, okay.
Stuff out there. Just kind of point out something. It is a maybe not an observation, but just maybe a theory that might be kind of depressing. I don't know. So I think that I try to think about things. Not try to. It just happens in terms of algorithm, and I wonder if maybe it's an algorithm thing, as in like they've gotten far enough where at least to a point where they're content with the what the government is trying to do or doing in some cases and not being able to accomplish in some cases, that they just figure, let's not even talk about it. Let it kind of fall to the wayside. If it's not in the algorithm, nobody's even paying attention to it.
I actually think that, so my personal theory, and I haven't really talked about it on stream because it just hasn't come up or whatever. My personal theory is that they didn't like the corporate, like the pink and rainbow capitalism that was being done. So they thought that was all it was. They're like, we just don't want to see all these companies supporting rainbows and trans pride flags and all those things. And they thought pushback would stop there. So they don't want the blood on their hands of the actual political backlash that trans people are suffering because of all of their stuff. Like they don't want to do that because their argument, like you were saying, Chariot, is the what about the kids? Think of the children fallacy argument. Like that's been around forever, right? That argument has fallen apart. We know that most of that isn't true. We know for a fact that the vast majority of crimes that are committed in bathrooms are done by cis people, cis straight people. There's no shortage. Like I think just the other day, I put it in my video, there was a guy that literally worked at the top end of like the MAGA departments during the election cycle who was caught using Joe Biden 69 as a screen name while he was sharing SACP material.
Yep.
So like this argument that the trans community is doing anything like that, there's no proof of it. And the thing is, over the years, I've asked people when I've talked to them, like, give me proof that trans people or gay people, mostly trans people, because like the trans derangement stuff is through the roof. But give me proof that trans people are doing anything that you're saying. There's no proof of it. There's no proof. There are isolated times where bad people are going to do bad things, but that doesn't show a systemic social issue with like an entire group of people. They can't do that.
They would be making compilations of examples of this shit. You know what I mean? It would be everywhere.
If I have to see another Lily Tino video, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. That's their one example. Well, what about Lily Tino at Disney? Shut the fuck up. That's like, trans people are not monolithic. She is not the entirety of all the whole entire trans community. And Dylan Mulvaney was such a fucking fart in the wind. Oh, the advertising with one can of Bud Light in a 35-second TikTok.
It's going to kill our beer culture.
Yeah, it's this outrageous thing, and I've watched so many debates from people who are anti-trans who call in and speak to trans creators to try and like debate this idea that there's trans women aren't women and stuff like that. It always falls apart. There's no logical argument they can make to defend any of their positions. There's none. So I think what's happened is that a lot of these channels only cared about the visibility of what trans and gay people were getting, mostly trans people, because that's the community they were going so hard on. They were worried about that, but they don't want the ramifications of like gender affirming care being stripped away from trans people. They don't want the ramifications of the bathrooms being taken away from trans people. They don't want that. They say they did when they were making videos about it, but they don't actually want that. They don't want to be responsible for that. So I think they're running away from that content. And as far as like the gay stuff, I just think there's not enough of it in their faces this year for them to think about it. Like, you're not seeing a million different pride things partnering up with different brands and companies, which is fine. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck about that stuff. Honestly, I don't. It's great when it happens, but I do understand that like some companies are performative. Their allyship is limited to like how much they're willing to take. They don't want to be on the front lines with gay people. I already get this. I'm an old ass gay man. I've been seeing this shit since I was like younger, so I understand it. I never believed that those companies actually gave a shit about any of us. If it's not a company that actually has queer people involved in it, chances are they're not doing it because they give a fuck, you know? So I think that's what it is with these guys. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what's happening because we're halfway through Pride Month and I've seen maybe 2 videos from any of those channels. So it's crazy.
See, here's this fucking guy.
Yeah.
He was honored by Moms for Liberty. It's always the ones you most expect. Yeah.
I can tell you right now, this is not an isolated thing. I could every single day, if I wanted to start a channel, because YouTube would suppress it, but if I wanted to start a channel where every day I talked about straight cisgender white guys doing this, I could make a video, sometimes multiple videos, every single day. I'm not kidding you guys. This kind of news happens across the country every single day. You know how many times I encounter trans people doing this or gay people doing this? Very rarely, if ever. If ever. It's almost always somebody who's conservative, somebody who's either involved with law enforcement or the church or teaching that are doing something like this. And most of the times, the victims are people that they knew personally. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I really need to finish editing up there because it was a pretty long stream we did a while back about we called it pedocon fact because it's not just theory; it's a theory like gravity's a theory.
Was that the one where I had that crash out? That might have been.
I don't remember.
Wait, you had a crash out?
I had a. This was. I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, it might not be, but there was one around the time of the election.
Yes, probably.
And like this was around the time. So my grandmother, who is one of the people who's like the most supportive of me, had maybe a almost decade long, depending on where you like count it really, but this really extended battle with dementia, and she had passed away like literally the weekend before Trump won the election, and so that for me, like to be honest, like still everything I've been doing from like then to now has been kind of like trying to re-coordinate my life around what I feel like really matters. But something that like I was feeling at the time was like there is so much like targeting of teachers, of which she was one. She was an educator, and like I felt like, oh my god, like this is like a, not to be histrionic, but it is like a movement of what under other circumstances everybody would agree is abject moral evil. In terms of what's being perpetrated, there's a lot of mixed intent in there, but when we actually look at what the consequences of it are,
kind of dive into if you guys want. It's from a Critical Drinkers subreddit, but it is it's a bit of a rabbit hole, not like a big one, but it takes a few minutes to read through, but I think it's interesting and fucking fucked up. But so real quick, I just wanted to point out that it's almost as if conservatives at this point, fascists, it's like they have some kind of fucking disease of the brain that makes you believe the exact opposite of what's real. That's how fucking bizarre it's gotten, that they will say, this about immigrants or whatever, when the fucking, per capita, it's not that, or with the trans thing, it's kind of fucking crazy. Like it makes you, it's crazy making, makes me feel fucking crazy sometimes.
Before you dive into this, Dane, I just want to address Bob of the Old Ways comment. So I don't know about as specifically, but I think I understand why Eric's not doing it. His comic book company is not doing well. I know he keeps trying to pretend that it is, but it's not. I think he doesn't want to alienate people, so you're seeing a lot less of that content on his channel. He's losing subs. It is like the rate is so crazy. It's like a waterfall. He's losing subs like crazy. He wants to sell comics to anybody that's willing to buy them. If you look at his channel now, it's mostly like political commentary. He's kind of gone away with like social commentary and stuff like that. He's literally just talking about Trump's policies and stuff like that. I think he doesn't want to alienate that part of the audience. And I think Az understands that because he's now writing for Rippaverse. So he's been given the memo, like, I don't want you to do that either. So I think Eric and Az in that regard are doing it specifically from a position of like, we want to sell our products. That's
the other thing is they're losing their they're losing their grip on the algorithm.
Yeah.
They aren't getting the big hits that they were even just 6 months ago. They don't know what story they need to be selling now because a lot of their audience has got over the fact that Hollywood is awful, and so they've just sort of tuned out because fine, we'll stop watching films. A lot of their audience have realized they're full of it.
Kathleen Kennedy wasn't fired in 2020. I think that was the tipping point. Like nobody believed that shit. It was just more and more garbage from them.
Well, I'm still waiting for Chris Gore's big news story that he broke in front of the Critical Drinker that Kevin Feige has fired all the activists in Marvel. So I'm still waiting for proof of that, and that's not coming anywhere. So yeah, it's all of their bullshit is falling apart, and they're struggling now to grasp at straws. I saw Critical Drinker had a clip from his open bar where he was talking about even Marvel have admitted that that Thunderbolts was a flop. And it's like, if that was true, you wouldn't have to be convincing people that it was true.
Right.
And if it was a flop, it doesn't matter because that's not what the people who responded to his dog shit review had issue with. They had issue with the fact that he was saying it was bad and they all liked it.
Also, if something is objectively a flop, you don't need anybody to admit it.
No.
Right.
Like,
I mean, that's been my argument against these fucking EFAP guys forever.
They admit that something's objectively true. Okay, I mean, all right.
So before we get into this other thing, because it is going to get kind of dark for a minute, but I want to do this funny thing here. This dropped earlier.
Okay, so we're live. We're on. Go. Well, hey, everyone. It looks like it's time. I'm drunk as as usual. Yeah, so my book, The Mighty Golden Gate Triot, is available for pre-order as of yesterday. I'm joined here with these guys, and Derek, you want to say something? I don't know.
Yeah, people. What's good? What is good? Nigger talk, dumb street ebonics and stuff.
What?
So this is the latest release through Rippa's Friend. Rippa's Friend is my fulfillment company where I only offer a few YouTubers with huge subscriber accounts a deal where I promise them huge returns by pretending I can recreate the fluke wave of cash I made accidentally with my first comic. Obviously, my only motivation is so I can take a fat percentage myself.
Hey, can we talk about my book now?
Shout out. Okay. Flush, tell me, just for a bit of background for the people out there, what was your inspiration for The Mighty Golden Gate Triot?
Well, just like you, and I think this is why we get on, is that I have no creative abilities at all, and I'm really fucking infantile for an adult. I love the Power Rangers because I have a retard level IQ. So I made a Power Rangers book.
That's exactly what I did. I made a goofy generic superhero that I wish was me.
I'm a Power Ranger.
I'm a muscle man.
Yeah.
You two want to talk about this book of yours?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of people ask why I used Rippa's Friend to make and ship my book. Well, Eric accidentally had a few $1 million campaigns due to monetizing and evangelizing to a number of combined subscriber bases. So I thought, hell, I'll just make him do that for me.
You mean multi-million?
Multi-million, yes. So, Eric, let's go. Let's see the pre-order numbers.
Hell yeah, let me just bring that up for you now. Whoa. Yeah, so we are looking...
I didn't see anything.
Too quick there.
Sure thing. Let me just bring that again. Whoa.
I want to point out that sad old man on screen there, that like he really should, there should be like 4 of those. Not just one. There's always like 4 fucking sad old men on these streams.
We are definitely doing some numbers on this campaign.
Can you leave it on for longer?
Missed it.
Ha! You guys are just, okay, let me just bring this back up again for you to get a good look at. See? Oh, not bad, huh?
We can't see it properly. It's all messed up.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about, just not spoil the fun, but like what do you guys think about the fact that this is very clearly not it's damaging and has damaged, I believe, the credibility or whatever optics that Rippaverse and Eric had, along with lots of other stuff. But then they've got stuff like this raging homo on screen, and I'm pretty sure, I didn't notice this when I watched it earlier, that I'm pretty sure that the Derek puppet said the N-word right at the beginning.
I don't know. It beeped. I wasn't sure what he said.
And whenever he types, I don't know if it's in this video, but there's another one I saw where he's like, whenever it shows the puppet, the Eric puppet typing, there's like chimp sounds playing. So there's some problematic elements to this shit. It's obviously not like super progressive and fucking,
this is part of the infighting in that community, though. That's the thing.
Right.
This is the infighting.
Well, what do you think about the ethics of us, consuming or laughing about it? The stuff that is funny to laugh at.
I mean, there are funny elements of it. I wouldn't laugh at every single element of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always taken a let them fight approach to these sorts of situations.
That's the way I feel about it. Yeah.
I think for me, it's a shame they have to go for the easy racist and homophobic stuff when the actual good comedy is really well observed satire.
Yep.
And the subtlety, like making Yellow Flash's top of his head a penis.
Yes.
So I think.
Oh my god! I didn't even see that.
I don't necessarily think it's as deep as I'm making it sound here, but I think there is sort of something poetic by shoving like the racism and homophobia back at the people that do that all the time.
Yeah. True.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that I would personally do that, but there is something sort of poetic about Yellow Flash, who spends days after days like getting mad about gay people, making his head a penis and calling him Yellow Flash gay. Like that, he would find that offensive because he doesn't like gay people. You know what I mean?
Gay was bad for him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in that way, mentally think of it that way. It's like, okay, I get it. I understand why they're doing it. You know what I mean? But then you have Sad Old Man, who is, I think, Midnight's Edge Tom or whatever. Literally, that's funny just because it's so fucking true. It's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion that I think that this does more in favor of more harm toward the image that these guys like to present, like Eric and stuff. It does. I'm just thinking how I'm trying to frame this. It does more good than harm, I guess. But I'm also not of the communities that it's using for those little fucking silly, not even worth it jokes. Like Ryan said, there was the organized chaos one, which is fucking excellent. Very good encapsulation of the debate with Bob and Eric. But then at the very end, there's, or I think maybe one little thing throughout it too. There's like just these, like he says, "Oh, my favorite food is chicken" or something, and then at the end the rednecks call him a fucking a monkey or something like that. And I'm like, what? If you just have those couple, they're not worth it. They're not funny.
Right, but my question is that not what those guys would say about a black guy? You know what I mean? Like, is that not a true statement?
That's true. I mean, so with the redneck characters at the end, I guess that does make some sense in that regard. But like,
because it wasn't like it was a progressive person saying it. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally like redneck. Again, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I wonder if there's more thought behind that than maybe what we're. Also, there's probably some internal humor in this that we're not getting, and I don't think that this video is necessarily intended to attack the gay community or anything like that. I don't think.
No, that's what I was going to say to listeners. Like, that's my first instinct is to agree with you on this, but then I think a little bit like, if this does the job of continuing to pound the fault lines within their own community, is that not good for us? And if it's able to reach people in that community by kind of doing some lazy little appeals to the shit that they like to clap like seals at, then I don't know. I'm just.
I think it's a tough line to walk. So it's no 100% from me, but this is internalized fighting between them. I don't think this is intended to be consumed by the masses, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the perfect example is like Ryan Cannell. Give him the goofy lipstick, which is fine, but the name isn't funny.
Which one?
Sure the Raging Homo.
Oh, because his name is I think it's Raging Rhino is the guy that he's talking about.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was Ryan Cannell.
No, it's Raging Rhino. It's a guy that's been hooking up with these folks forever, and I don't think his channel's ever really taken off. Let me double check. I think that he's.
Right. So people asking where you can find the puppets. It's this channel here. Just be aware of disclosure that you know, he's been supportive of us. He's come by several times and been supportive and stuff. It's pretty cool. But like he does accept payment for making videos about the targets that people pay him to, including he's made them for Ethan Van Sciver. So
yeah,
fact,
so Raging Rhino has been going at this for a long time, and he's only got like 6.8K subs, and he's been partnered up with Yellow Flash for years. So
damn.
Right. See, that joke's lost on me, but yeah, I think it's tough. I don't want to say, because, like you said, the racist stuff, the homophobic stuff isn't great, but it's not for this isn't for our audience.
Right.
The other jokes are in there for us, stuff we know about. There's probably jokes completely lost on us that community eats up as well.
Also, Raging Rhino or Raging Homo here got well known because he made a video clip of him approaching a queer person at an airport, at a meet and greet or something, and like trying to attack them verbally for making comments about him on Twitter. So
you excuse me, sir, you've tweeted about me several times.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then he got blasted because he took a picture of this person and tried to make fun of them, and they're like, what does it say about you to take a picture of like a queer person and basically try and make them look bad because they said some hateful things about you on Twitter?
Oh, grown ass man.
Like Morgan said, he's just a dork. That's fucking dork behavior. I will say that like the thing a minute ago with him saying, well, I like Power Rangers, so I made myself a Power Ranger. And Eric going, me too, that's what I did. That's probably the funniest shit in any of these puppet videos so far.
I want to point out that the Yellow Patriot, whatever, the comic book has not reached its sales goal, and it's only 5,000 away, but it's basically hobbled to 95,000 out of 100,000 goal. Which, by the way, the 100,000 goal, which is a low goal for a Eric July comic book, through Ripa versus Ripasend or whatever. They did that because I think they believed it was going to blow past that number pretty quickly, and it didn't. It's kind of like stumbled up to like where it is now.
Yeah, I think that's what this video is kind of addressing.
Yeah. I just want to say something about this and about like corporate pride, because I think this all kind of ties in together. You know, guys like this really complain about, you know, everything that is basically just a rehashing of like forced diversity style arguments. You know, things are getting shoved in our faces. Oh, it's wokeness. It's this, it's that. But like, you know, the reason why corporations do that is because they think it's like easy vibes, like easy clicks. Like, oh, look, we're doing something different. It's advertising, basically. Including when studios make a movie that's not that different from other movies they've made, but they're like, oh, the character is a woman now or whatever. The idea is like, oh, look, it's slightly different. Don't you want to like see if you'll like this slightly newer, slightly different version of the thing that we've always been doing? Whereas like these guys seem to, when they see it and they're dissatisfied, they don't go, oh, this is hacky and done, and I want something different from what we used to have. They think, oh, the problem is that it's different. Like that's so, it's just so crazy. Like, no, the problem isn't that it's different. The problem is that it's superficially different, right?
Right.
Like the thing about like, you know, making a film more like gay, you know, like this happened a lot with The Acolyte when that show was coming out. There was that one interview or red carpet moment or whatever where the one woman, I can't even remember her name, just said something offhand where she was like, this is like the gayest show or whatever, the gayest Star Wars show or something like that. And then a bunch of these guys ran with it and they thought, oh my God, like this is free content for weeks. We can eat for weeks. I can feed my family with this homophobia. And like the crazy thing about it is like the issue that I have with it is that it's not really true. The Acolyte is not particularly gay. Like, yeah, you have like the Witch's Coven or whatever, but like the implied relationship between two female characters is not overly gay. You know, maybe it is the gayest Star Wars has ever been, but that's a low bar, you know, like imagine if you had a Star Wars show that was really taking hints and cues from queer culture. You know, imagine something that's really like about us like that. You know, that would be different. You could take that in a different direction. potentially, but that's not really where Disney lives. That's not what their MO is. And I just kind of think that to look at that and be like, well, the problem is that it's like, diverse or whatever. Nah, that's like how advertising works, like they're just going to tell you that it's something different from the stuff that you've been getting. And it's kind of not really, and maybe we like what we've been getting, some people, they look at the Marvel films and they go, oh, I like, the old Iron Man films. I wish that we had that again. And then they do get stuff that's like that and they go, I like it, that's consistent. But it's inconsistent to be like, no, now this one, it has a black woman in it. And it's like, well, is it that different?
It's all selective amnesia as well, because I think, was it you, Dane, that mentioned Battlestar Galactica recently in some context?
I was literally about to, yeah. That like, Starbuck was people got upset about Starbuck being changed from a guy to a woman, and it turned out to be like one of the, regardless of the gender, it was just like a great characterization and a very popular character now. But it's just
Adama was race swapped from a white guy to a Hispanic guy. So
I don't know. I don't remember anybody. I'm sure that somebody did get upset about that, but I don't remember anybody.
Not the Edward James Olmos thing. I know people got upset about the Starbucks
This is
change, but
something in the chat that I just saw. This is really brilliant. Lucifer Riding says, the implication of gayness was only implied by the subtext of witches, some of which is based in actual real life misogyny. So what is the mileage on that really? And I kind of get that. What I think is interesting is the point about Andor. Women were making out on Andor. Queer culture has like a latent anti-authoritarian tendency. And I think that that fact of like the rebelliousness of it comes through a lot stronger just in like the themes of Andor. The idea that you have a group of people who are kind of coming from all walks of life that are resisting this big evil empire. Whereas the witches, it's like it's basically textual that those two women create life together. So it's like they're two mothers. That's basically in the text. So that like I get calling that gay, like I get saying that that's gay, but also like Andor
were literally
is
women
equally
kissing
so.
on Andor, so
yeah, exactly.
And
Well,
they eventually, right? Like even Critical Drinkers video of the put out at the end of it was, oh, Andor got me, finally got me. It's like, what? How do you watch a whole 2 seasons of a show and not know what you feel about it, or be kind of on the fence, and then like what it gets you at the very end? What the fuck?
oh yeah, it got him when it got to the fighty shooty bit.
Oh, I see.
I have to jump out. I have to run to work. So I will see everyone later. Have fun on the stream.
Yeah.
And
Good
I will
seeing
check
you.
it out. So peace out.
Yeah, peace. I was gonna say I have a pair of videos. It's sort of a two-parter that I'm planning on releasing in July that I'm still kind of putting together, but they're all written. Like the essay part is written. And it's sort of the first part is about the way that Rey Skywalker is written in the Star Wars sequels. And the second part is about Finn and Poe, kind of the other elements of the main group. And that second part is about the idea of like gay representation in Star Wars and the sequels and stuff that like J.J. Abrams said about it. And like what that stuff means in the context of Star Wars. I don't really get into like the newer stuff like Andor and the Acolyte. That would be interesting though. I might save that for a future video. But one of the things that I kind of felt compelled to discuss is something J.J. Abrams said in an interview at one point, that like the idea of having the gay kiss at the end of The Rise of Skywalker is to make it seem like it's not a big deal, to kind of put it in the background.
Yes.
But equally, he said about Finn and Poe, he said when people were asking, like, is this a gay relationship? He said something to the effect of like, like, you know, I think it's deeper than that. He said something like it's deeper or it's more profound than that. And I always thought that was a really kind of vaguely homophobic remark. Not that he seems like a bad guy or anything, but, you know, like nobody would ever suggest that like Anakin and Padme or Han and Leia needed to be deeper in any way than the relationship that they had.
It comes off weird, like it's just he's dismissive of, you know, it doesn't equalize the idea of a gay romance with a, you know, straight romance. It in fact kind of sets it as if like something lesser than a friendship, which is, you know, I mean, I guess it's possible. Sure, there can be deeper relationships than other relationships, but I don't know. You know, maybe he should have gone with something other than that fucking gay ass lip bite that he did. If they wanted to, you know, give off.
Well,
a different...
Oscar Isaac plays. Then I love him so much.
Yeah, he's
he
great.
plays Poe like he's gay.
Yeah,
like he likes Finn. There's even a scene in Rise of Skywalker where Poe is like, and this is it. This comes through in the novelization as well. So it's like basically canon. He's like jealous of Rey having spent so much time with Finn. Like he feels left out, and it's so like it feels, I guess, like a one-sided kind of romance, because I don't think John Boyega was ever like, I'm sure if that had been the role, he would have played it perfectly well, but I don't think he was ever invested in it like that. Whereas Oscar Isaac gave I think a couple interviews where he said something to the effect of that would have been a cool direction for the character to go. At one point he says like the Disney overlords wouldn't allow it.
Oh
man.
I'm sorry, real quick. Like, no, what are you talking about? He-Man was not a wandering barbarian in the original cartoon. That's not what he was at all. Like, I think you're thinking of, I don't know, Conan or something.
No, I think he might be referring to the original free comic books that used to come with the toys that no kids ever read. Because that had a completely different lore to the cartoon, which had a completely different lore to the next cartoon. There is no lore, and this is one of the things I hate about all these canon purists today. It's like, man, growing up when we did, canon was whatever the film told you it was.
Yeah,
there's a reason some films completely ignore what happened in the film before it and go off on a completely
any horror fan
tangent.
of the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s has learned to accept fucking fucked up canon and just kind of got to go with it, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because there was this old argument that used to get made a lot. I forget who said this first, but it was about like the idea that superhero movies are like modern day mythology. That actually works. That's more true if there's different competing like lore and narratives. Like if in one like thing there's a story where Batman, one of his parents lives. Like it's Flashpoint Paradox where it's Thomas Wayne is Batman, I think. Like that idea that there's like competing narratives about who Batman is really and which Waynes die, that feels like Greek mythology, because like, you know, sometimes you read one of those stories and it's like who is whose daughter and stuff like that gets kind of mixed around, and who's the god of what. And that's dope. That's like interesting.
Mythology is defined by that. It's not canon. It's not necessarily lore. Mythology is, you know, it's going to shift and take different shapes across different tribes and eras and stuff.
So that's the mad thing about anybody who's complaint with the Disney live action remakes, is that they're not like the originals. Is because those originals are not the originals anyway. Their cartoons were adapted from a completely different story. Sometimes they changed because that's what storytelling was. For hundreds and hundreds of years, storytelling was you change it, you add to it, you take away from it. So you can complain about everything else about those live action remakes, but changing the story is fundamental to a fairy story.
And you know, it'd be one thing if they were actually, you know, I mean, it gets close to it. Lucas film got close to this by, you know, no longer releasing the original Star Wars trilogy. But you know, as far as I know, I don't think anybody else has gone out of their way to bury the original version of something so that to force you to have the new thing, right? That would be that'd be more understandable in that regard. But
no, because I mean, I can remember growing up being told the sort of Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale, and in some versions, the wolf just eats her. The wolf just eats the grandma, and that's it. And in some versions, the wolf eats the grandma, and then Red Riding Hood, and then the huntsman comes along and saves them both by cutting open the wolf, and they're both alive. So there's at least 3 or 4 different versions of that story I heard when I was a kid. So,
and actually, there's a film about that, about the fact that there's different accounts of Red Riding Hood, and in the fairy tale, there's specifically a film, like an animated film. I can't, what's it called? It's a 3D animated film. It was an earlier one from when I was like a kid.
Hoodwinked?
Hoodwinked, yeah, that's the one. Because it's like a mystery kind of film, like a whodunit, and they all have a different story about what happens.
This makes me laugh. I'm sorry, but like he says he's right. Yeah, in the Acolyte, it turns out that the witches were, subordinates of Darth Plagueis, right?
I just realized that, left a little ambiguous.
You fanboys got the same kind of treatment with Darth Plagueis that fucking gay people did with the kiss of Skywalker.
It's legitimately a crime. It's a crime that the Acolyte got the treatment from some of these guys that it did, because like they were jonesing to hate that show from the first episode, but it was only at the end that we got the Plagueis reveal. And if they had just waited and withheld their judgment, what they would have seen by the end is, oh, if we get another season of the show, we're going to get some real Sith lore stuff. There's the potential for something to really happen here.
Yeah, but there was a woman in it, and she was black, and there were two of them.
I mean, I just I don't. There was so many little weird complaints, like the fire. At one point, I was reacting to something. I think it was like a panel that had like Mahler and the Critical Drinker on it, and they were complaining that like the fire spreads too quickly when one of the twins like lights the torch, and I was like, she clearly lights it near like it's like an electric outlet or whatever. Like the door is powered by electricity, and it's like this big, like they have like power in this facility. So like if it's an electrical fire, what are you gonna do? Like pour water on it? Like that's, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just like somebody said once on that panel, these guys are so stupid. I genuinely resent how dumb these fuckers are.
It's true.
One of them said like, oh, it's stone, how is it burning? And it's like, big dog, like if you have an electrical fire and there's flammable things in the building, the fact that the building is made of stone is not gonna stop you from burning alive.
They had a lot of weird stuff around fires when it came to that show,
Yeah.
She's a former Padawan who could put out sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the vacuum of space. Fires in the vacuum of space. Fires in the vacuum of space. Sustained fires in the...
And it goes on and on.
Nerdrotic should... I was about to be real spicy. I genuinely feel like he would be doing less harm to the youth if he just served crack again. Like on a harm reduction level.
I've said that. I said that a couple of years ago, and people on Twitter fucking got really mad at me. They're like, "Oh, what?" Of course, there were probably people that don't look at this through the lens we do, but like, no, he's objectively, in my opinion, causes more harm to more people. He's got a way bigger platform, and the main thing is, people that it was meth, by the way, people that consume methamphetamines or whatever drugs, they typically know that's what they're buying, and they know that it's bad for them, right? Whereas like the content that he fucking serves to people, these people by and large have no idea. They think that they're the good guys. They think this is good for them, that what they're doing, that what they're consuming is healthy or whatever. So I mean, in that way, it's just objectively a shittier thing that he's doing these days.
Well, something I've noticed about the Critical Drinker, watching a couple of criticisms of his videos recently, is he's got a real disdain for everybody. He thinks I don't know if this is part of the act, but he generally thinks he's smarter than everybody. Women, definitely. But he's got a weird thing about disparaging the knowledge of the people from the past. He goes off on it in Prey. He goes off on it when he's talking about Wakanda Forever. How, these stupid idiots from hundreds of years ago didn't know anything. And I'm like, are you completely oblivious to the history? And all right, they wouldn't know what to do with an iPhone, but that doesn't mean they're idiots.
Well, there was a Greek mathematician that calculated the circumference of the planet.
Yeah, I know his name and I can't pronounce it. Aristophanes, I think. Yeah, basically, yeah.
It was Aristotle is sort of known as like the one of the first biologists. I think there was something in marine biology where he like described an octopus reproducing with its tentacle, and people thought that he was wrong about that until like hundreds and hundreds of years later, when biologists were like, "Oh no, they really do that. Okay, that's interesting."
Guys, I'm sorry that I have to pause for just a moment here to point out, because before anybody else takes it seriously, Lucifer, I appreciate the defense. However, first of all, I'm not a Democrat. Second of all, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Boss 45 isn't a fucking Democrat either. So
Yeah.
nice, real good attempt there, bud.
I don't really understand. I would be willing to entertain this, but like, what is the problem with Dane's values specifically? You could say, there's an issue with an argument that he made, or
it's just a vague, swing at my value
substantive.
system because he doesn't look. Because apparently, I probably said something that really, upset him, or he recognizes it's true, or whatever. So that's typically what I assume.
I don't know. Like Andrew Cuomo, like entertaining Charlie Kirk makes Democrats look bad. On that scale, I think Dane could be a lot worse and still kind of be a non-factor.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a piece of shit, man, but like we got fascists in power. Come on.
You're not a piece of shit. You goofball. Be nicer to yourself.
Look, here's some pieces of shit. So this is in Critical Drinkers subreddit. An American is watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with his kid when he noticed something strange. He paused it. There's LGBTQ messaging everywhere. Why would you do that? I'll tell you why. It's because they want to indoctrinate your children. They want this kind of stuff normalized. Well, I mean, the indoctrination thing is not true, but we do want it normalized. People want it normalized because it's normal. It's not normal.
I'd argue the Turtles have always normalized it. I mean, they've all got sort of rainbow-colored bandanas, but combine them together. That's all I'm saying.
So right here we've got one LGBTQA little looks like a Pride Month thing and a couple things there. And it's a rainbow, definitely evil. And they're saying it's everywhere, but then it gets let's go a little deeper here because this is kind of a wild ride. They love to tell you that they are not after your children, right? My boys were. Let's see. I don't know where it jumps from to this, but and not just the televised big tragedies, those compared to the number of public schools in the U.S. are still relatively rare. What they never report on is the incessant day-to-day violence in public schools now. They're packed with feral children. This is essentially, we do a podcast on Sundays called Forced Diversity Podcast, and it's basically addressing this type of mentality that you're going to see here. That's what we do. We have a homeschool network. So basically all the kids in it go to one of the parents every school day, and each of us has a specialty we teach. And it gets like, I didn't know that this was a thing, a network of little fucking MAGA chud parents that just kind of shift their kids around to the different houses each day. Seems insane to me.
I mean, this is basically how a lot of homeschooling has to work.
They talk about how insufficient and how, blah, blah, blah. And then, they debate how many hours you need to spend actually. And there's some truth to that, I think, as far as spending 8 hours a day in school and how much of that is actually necessary to learn. But then, let's see. Oh, here we go. Why is this becoming more and more relevant? Okay, I hope you're not teaching spelling. Hollywood don't care. Hopefully you're not teaching fucking English about care how bankrupt they go, but they will still keep pushing this agenda until each and everyone accepts it. And then we get the Motherload here by BC Hawk. This whole concept both fascinated and confused me. For over 100 years, Hollywood has made every single decision based on what brings them the most profit. We've seen it go both ways morally. For instance, in the 80s, it was all about sex and violence and R-rated movies. Sex sells, and he's right about this, or she, whatever. So you saw a sex scene, or at the very least, nude women in almost every single R-rated film, a lot in PG-13 films, even in PG films. That's right. Go watch 16 Candles, PG teen comedy. Is that true? I don't know. There's a nude girl. I'm sure she's not actually a teenage girl, but nonetheless. However, you saw the pendulum swing completely opposite direction in the early 2000s. So he makes that point. Talks about Die Hard with a Vengeance, World War Z. True, both of those were PG-13. They did do shift towards that. However, sometime in the last 10 years or so, you've seen Hollywood double and triple down on shoehorning LGBTQ content to every single goddamn movie, TV show, and cartoon, even ones that are aimed at toddlers. Go watch the Muppet Babies episode where Gonzo dresses in drag so he can go to the ball in a gown with the girls. They're literally losing billions of dollars because of this. The proof is in the pudding when you see things like Pixar pulling a 180 at the last minute and taking, where would it go? Blah, blah, blah. Here, taking the lesbian love story out of Inside Out 2. End result, literally the highest grossing animation of all time until that Chinese animated film beat it. What? Families will go to the theater to see your movie if you just make it entertaining and leave the rest of that crap out of it. I kept scratching my head about this phenomenon rather than do some research, and finally came to the conclusion that this is literally their religious mission. Oftentimes, atheists end up turning to something else to replace religion, and for a lot of people, politics become their religion. So, anyway, this is, and I think that this is kind of like, even if they haven't consciously worked their way through it the way this guy has or person has, I think this is kind of just what a lot of people's assumption is, vibes wise, right? A lot of these chuds anyway. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely, because this is the sort of, again, this is the selective amnesia. I mean, talking about the early 2000s, getting rid of sex, you mean the rise of the sex comedy like American Pie and Old School and all of those films that came out then?
Well, also, a lot of these guys in their understanding of feminism is basically downstream from, 90s era, Battle of the Sexes stuff. So, these discourses about sexuality and gender were, this stuff was happening before I was born, It's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess, they're saying that these companies are losing billions because they just keep making these, these movies that nobody wants, and that's the reason that movies. It's like, do they not recognize? First of all, of course they don't. I've said before that a grifter's playground is a shifting industry, industry in flux, and that's what we got in a lot of ways. Movies, comics, TV, it's all shifting in real time. Things are, streaming platforms are popping up and dying. Movie studios are fucking, everything's closing down into one fucking mega studio eventually. And they don't recognize those things as having an effect. They don't recognize that the streaming aspect on its own, of course, that's going to change the way that people consume media. And especially they've shifted on streaming or movie releases to put movies out. I just saw today that Thunderbolts is going to be available on July 1st. That's fucking great because I love that movie. I can't wait to see it again. But that's way sooner than it would have come out 10 years ago. It would have been 3-4 months, something like that, after it was in theaters. And they just don't incorporate these things into their. So that just all becomes about, it's got to be the Democrats and what's wrong with them and what they're thinking is wrong. And yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, it's not taking a holistic approach because I mean, the 100 years of film, they are not accounting for the advent of television, where cinema tickets sales plummeted and things like that. There's all different factors at play, and I can't remember whose video it was I was watching that was talking about this. It might have been Pillar of Garbage, but let's not give him too much credit. But it was talking about how different forms of media handle changes in culture in different ways. So, commercials are always slightly behind cultural shifts because they're trying to sell your product in 30-second slots. So they only want to be what is sort of on topic. They will never be too progressive. They will never try and get ahead of the culture. They'll always try and be on what is cultural. Whereas storytelling generally tends to be a little bit ahead because the people telling the stories are more rooted in the grassroots of it. And so the reason Hollywood has been more progressive is because they thought that that's where the world was heading. Certainly after the election of the first black president in the US, and so they were planning to sort of, and the way gay marriage was legalized across all 50 states and had been slowly legalized across every country in the world, they thought that the culture was moving towards that. How could they have known that an idiot like Donald Trump would get elected twice? So they're always trying to get ahead of culture because in the past, where they've been behind it, they've been let go. They made musicals and cowboy films for long after they were popular and lost money because of it. They didn't make enough anti-Nazi films until it was okay to do so. And they sort of were on the back foot. So this is just not understanding storytelling, media, film, or anything, and realizing that these guys are on the wrong side of history and they will be a footnote.
Yeah, it's also and there's, I think, sometimes liberals and left-wingers who make this mistake as well, but you really don't transform culture by complaining about it. You can make critique can change people's minds, and that can develop our consciousness of issues. But I think if you're not making critique that amounts to more than just like condoning or condemning, buy this thing, don't buy this thing, you know. If you're not going beyond that, then you're going to have a difficult time. And I think that's sort of what has made me think so much about like this kind of what Dane sometimes calls like the grifter sphere. That's sort of why it's so interesting to me, is because it's a bunch of people who believe mutually contradictory things about what makes something good or bad, and they're primarily concerned with whether something is good or bad, and what they can kind of make of that and how they can kind of talk about that. The thing about art is, in the way that you're talking about it, it's like very iterative. So, you know, if I'm a writer and I want to write fantasy, I might be like, oh, I want to do like Game of Thrones, but different, right? And the way that it's different is what precisely the thing that's going to animate me to make it. Because I'm not like, it's, you know, early, younger writers or beginning writers tend to like do a lot of imitation, like direct imitation. They want to use the characters they're familiar with. They want to write basically like fan fiction or some version of that, which is perfectly respectable. But then when they make something that's new, that isn't just established ideas and properties, usually it's iterative like that. And I feel like these guys, when they iterate or when they encounter iterations, they have a hard time like grasping it and like actually dealing with it and creating it. It's just really, really bizarre.
Well, Tony J makes a good point about The Great Dictator. It was only just ahead of its time. It was only really very shortly before the horrors of the Second World War were sort of fully known, but it was enough ahead of its time that now he was seen as very prescient and it's seen as a great film. And there are a few films of that era that actually challenged the Nazis that are now considered classics. Casablanca is another one. There's a few more, and they were zeitgeist films. They were not trying to capitalize on everybody hating the Nazis. They were saying, this is wrong, we've got to do something about it. I mean, and that's those are the things that last, the things that are ahead of the curve.
Yeah, well, and then there's, I think, another way to kind of do it as well, because like my favorite painter, Vincent van Gogh, right, is often talked about as I think they technically, the term is post-impressionist. But he's kind of, people, when they picture paintings of that era, they will often picture like Starry Night and stuff like that. And I think the idea that he is considered sort of the ideal of that era and that type of art is sort of fascinating, because in his day he was kind of treated as like just unimportant, dull, passe. Nobody was really interested. And I think part of that was because they had kind of seen it before. He was not the first person to do stuff like that. But retroactively, I think people understood that this was sort of in tune with not just his personal experiences, but also like this is stuff that when you really look at the painting and paintings and you think about how they make you feel, I think it sort of it embodies that kind of art. And I think that people sense that implicitly when they like go to, like, here in Chicago, we have the Art Institute. There's a lot of great paintings there. You can see like a lot of like cool Monets and stuff like that. And Van Gogh has his place right in there, which is would have been very strange for him to know. I think there's a Doctor Who episode about this actually.
Yeah, it's a really good one actually. Yeah.
In a way, Van Gogh's kind of behind the curve for his day, but in a way that is interacting with the culture. It's like very personal. It's very thoughtful. You know, I think this happens sometimes with like with artists where they're just not living in the time that would make them successful, but what they're doing is very important and very like it contributes very strongly to the tradition of the arts, such that later on people will look back on them and think very well of them. Which is, I say this in I did that like 3-hour long video essay about like anti-woke grifters. I got some comments on it because the thumbnail for that video says they hate the arts. And I, you know, in the way that dull people sometimes do. They click on the video and they leave a response just to the title or the thumbnail. And I got a few from right-wing people that were like, well, we don't hate the arts, you hate the arts. And of course, not interacting with the core argument, which is that you would not talk about things purely in terms of financial success if you really gave a shit. Like, I love Van Gogh. If I had these people's metrics for the arts, I would not. You know, like I want to be consistent in that. And I just think it's a real shame.
A whole host of classic writers and artists and stuff that never saw success while they were making their art, you know, while they were even alive.
There are also plenty that saw a lot of success, but also a lot of failures. And now we don't know which they felt was the success and failure. I mean, we talk about this with films all the time. I guarantee these, percentage-wise, more people's favorite films are ones that probably didn't perform very well on initial release.
We can rattle off the list real quick. We've done it before, but we got fucking Blade Runner, which, although I don't think is an exceptional film as like a narrative aesthetically and whatnot, it's been endlessly influential. And Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite movies ever. So then, you know, The Big Lebowski, fucking The Thing, the 1982 Thing. What else?
Going back, you got The Wizard of Oz,
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. I mean, these are some big names. Starship Troopers, even, which was
Verhoeven's huge for that. That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, even now looking back at stuff like Showgirls, I think like people have a much more nuanced appreciation for his work.
Not me with Showgirls, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But I mean, if you listen to people talk about it, I think the public perception has changed quite a bit.
I think I might try and watch it again because I watched this RoboCop documentary. It's called RoboDoc on something not long ago. It was really good, but it's like 4 episodes or some shit, maybe more. And it goes pretty in depth, and it talks about, you know, Showgirls and stuff. And that he's basically, I had never considered, you know, I saw it in the 90s, of course. So like, you know, I don't know, I didn't have much patience for goofy, crazy, whatever was going on there. But basically, he's explained that he was doing for sex what he's done for violence in other movies. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can, you know, I don't know, maybe I can get my head around it if I watch it with that in mind.
Yeah, well, this is something that's actually on the topic of like fandom culture. This has happened a lot with Star Wars. The Star Wars prequels have been kind of reconsidered and reevaluated in the public eye. I think the stuff about that I don't respect is the people who act like they were always good and everybody was always great. Like that was not the.
There's a whole documentary about how much people hated that shit and wanted to.
A documentary that features Chris Gore complaining about the prequels, whereas surprisingly now he's complaining about the sequels.
I actually touched on this in my video about the way the characters in the sequels are written. I think it's the part 2 of that pair of videos where I talk about like the Mr. Plinkett reviews and like how strongly I feel about it, because he had that video where he was comparing the Star Wars prequels to the newer J.J. Abrams Star Trek films and talking about how like someone like J.J. Abrams should make the next Star Wars films. And I was like, man, a finger on the monkey's paw really curled there. Right. That it's so funny because now people, they actually posted a clip of that video around the time that JJ got that deal, and it was made public that he was going to direct that The Force Awakens. And if you look at the comments on that video now, oh my God, it's so bad. Everybody's like, wow, this was terrible. What a terrible idea. You guys were so wrong about this.
You've got to be careful with the movie monkey paw for all those people saying George Lucas should quit Star Wars.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, that's what he says in the clip. And obviously it's through the character of Mr. Plinkett. So it's kind of like an AVGN type bit, but he says something like J.J. Abrams should have directed the Star Wars prequels and George Lucas should have directed people to their seats, which is kind of crazy because George Lucas is actually a really talented filmmaker.
Yes.
He was just kind of doing what he wanted to do with that stuff. And I like all 3 of the Star Wars prequels and think they're good. I will stand for it even if I'm standing alone.
There was another.
Everybody, obviously, we see it. Just ignore it, please. Please ignore it. I'm gonna have fun with it. Just please ignore it, though.
Yeah, again, I think it was Critical Drinker in somebody else's video pointed out that he was saying that the prequels were beloved upon release, and it was only afterwards that people turned against them. And I'm like, that is not true. You're the same age as me. That was not the sentiment amongst anybody in 1999 to really Revenge of the Sith, when people started saying, well, it's the least worst one. People hated those films. The first two, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, were roundly reviled by every adult that went to see them, and there's enough proof of that out there, including, like you said, Dane, the documentary, The People versus George Lucas, the various songs.
That one where I'm not going to say the lyrics to it, but it's
George Lucas did something to my childhood.
Yeah.
There we go. There it comes out. Anyway, so yeah, I do have well, I want to get rid of this guy first, but I just want to point out that this guy, every comment that this fucking at least he labels himself a mad villain, because unironically you are a terrible person. Just all they have when they show up is just like to scream fucking repetitive, like no substance. I would be embarrassed to hold whatever positions you, I guess, hold if this is the best you can do to advocate for them. I would be fucking ashamed of myself, man. It's fucking sad. Like what the fuck? Come on, get out of here. Get out of here. All right.
It's just bait.
It's just bait.
Bait used to be believable.
Right. There used to be some effort behind bait. Yeah, Simon Pegg in Spaced. At one point, that's a cool character, but
yeah, that's because that series was made around sort of 99, 2000, 2001. So that was right in the pocket of it. So if you want to feel what the true sentiment was, and they're playing it for comedy in that, but that was the what most people thought at the time. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and to Simon Pegg's credit, I mean, in Spaced, he's like, they clearly presents his character like he's being a dick to that kid, that in that scene where he's like yelling at the kid about like Jar Jar or whatever, he gets fired from his job like right after that,
right,
for that, which is just part of what makes it funny.
And the consequence is he has to pretend to be gay to have a place to live, right, or something like that. No,
he gave an interview much later on.
Oh no, about, he has to pretend to be in a relationship with what's her name? It's been so long since I watched that.
Yeah,
I talk about this in the video that I'm working on, but sorry, I keep plugging it, but I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far.
Plug away.
I talk about this because like I sort of see it as like one big issue, but the Simon Pegg actually was pretty contrite when he found out there was that piece of news that broke about Ahmed Best and his sort of mental health struggle. Like you really couldn't get like a more like triple threat kind of talented dude. He's like a martial artist. He's an actor. He's
wait, he's a martial artist? I didn't even fucking know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like it's that or gymnastics. Wow. He's like very physical. He's that's actually part of why he had the role as Jar Jar, is because of the physicality of it.
Shaun of the Dead, whenever he he's on the ground on his back and then he does the jump up straight to his feet. I remember that now. I'm assuming he's dead on his own. That was not a stunt double.
You're talking about Simon Pegg.
Yeah, who are you talking about?
I was talking about Ahmed Best.
Oh my God! Wow,
he's like a very like physical person.
Yes,
like he's very fit.
He's definitely going to be a physical guy for sure.
No, I don't. I would be.
I'm picturing Simon Pegg had some secret talent that I just somehow missed all these fucking years.
Maybe he knows like karate or something. You never know.
I had started looking at this other thing because I do have to get out of here before too long, and so I definitely want to make sure to cover this one last topic that is starts off very very upsetting. But it ends up in a different way. So it's a tough one. So apparently, as happens far too often, I don't have any of her information or anything. But like apparently, a teen trans girl took her own life a couple weeks ago, and somebody saw that as an opportunity. That somebody being Stone Toss. If you're not familiar with Stone Toss, he is a Nazi. He makes Nazi propaganda, as in his little comic strip that he does. That's just like straight up Nazi talking points about queer people people of color, everybody, he's a Nazi. But then a hero emerged, Superman. This goes by Superman on Twitter. And in the spirit of Superman Smashes the Klan, which is from a few years ago, is a little mini-series, kind of alternate reality comic that's fucking excellent. I suggest checking it out, by Gene Lang, I think it is. And it takes place in the 50s, and it fictionalizes the real story of what happened in the actual 50s, where the Superman radio show did an episode called the cult of the clan of the fiery cross, which was very obviously meant to be the KKK, and that because that show was so popular and so many people had never really heard about the KKK and like what they actually were about and stuff like that, that diminished the KKK in actuality in the real world for decades after that, just by putting a spotlight on it and making fun of them a little bit. So this book, Superman Smashes the Klan, kind of fictionalized that story, as in like has a couple of kids in it, a Chinese American immigrant family, and it's really good. But so this motherfucker took the last post. He went and posted underneath that trans girl's last post on social media, links to his merch and shit, or to buy his crap. And then he took her a picture from her, something she posted, and made it his header image. Just real fucking craven shit, nasty shit. And then he got doxxed for it. His name, his phone number. So he'd been doxxed before, a couple of years ago, but I'm pretty sure it was just his name, and maybe I don't even know if it was. I think it might have been like a not current address that was doxxed. But this time it's photos, name, current address, all the goods, and just salute to that hero. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm glad there's people out there doing something about this shit, because until there's fucking laws on the books that protect these people, until there's a culture and a government that supports these people and prevents this type of thing from happening so often, then so we're gonna have people have to take matters in their own hands. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just there's been a lot of discussion over the years about like hate speech and free speech and stuff related to that, and I'm not necessarily I don't really know where I stand on some of that stuff, as far as like, what should be legal or not illegal. Because like if you're inciting a crime, that's a problem. But, where you draw that line with some of the stochastic terrorism that we've seen from the political right, I think it's opened up a lot of difficult questions for us and for the American system, at least. What I think is interesting, though, is like, if you're going to be a Holocaust denying Nazi, it wouldn't hurt to have like an equivalent of the sex offender registry for those guys,
True.
Especially if it's your career. Like I'm not talking about like a guy who makes like a shitty tweet once. Like this is this dude's whole ass fucking career. This is his deal. Is he made his life about this on purpose, Like if you're going to do that, like it's sort of like by the way, this is like I actually don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. I know people who live near Nick Fuentes. I didn't. I personally don't, but I have like friends who like knew him when he was like a kid. And the relationship that they have to that is like there's like a really dangerous dude who lives in this neighborhood. Now he's interpersonally a pussy. But he will, like, as we've seen with him, like pepper spraying that woman outside his door, he will just casually use weapons on you without any thought to the legal consequence. Now that's a not a lethal weapon, but it is, not chill to have a guy who's going around doing stuff like that. So like I'm very principally against like doxing. So there's a part of me that sees stuff like this and feels like you got to kind of be careful. But also like I remember the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally. That was a really important time for people to figure out who those guys were and what they were doing, and whose like communities they were in. And I do kind of feel like we're in that moment still. Like it's kind of important to know who these guys are.
Well, that's what I wanted. One thing I wanted. I'm really glad you're here too, because I wanted to have this discussion about the ethics of the doxing thing. And I fucking hate Nazis, fascists and shit. Like my first impulse is just like, fuck them all. You know, I don't need to abide by any rules with these motherfuckers. But I understand that that's not necessarily the best way to approach every situation. But like with this guy, like the propagandists, because, you know, in a way that's almost like the thing that Nazis and fascists need in order to exist is propaganda. They need it. And so in that way, like I kind of value them in a different way than I do just your average fucking, you know, Nazi-esque chud on the internet that's saying hateful shit. You know, even if he says it all day long, it's like, all right, he's doing that over there. I'm not worried about doxing this fucking guy. But like Stone Toss, who makes a comic that gets shared, and also the fact that it's not even obviously what it is, which is Nazi talking points, white supremacist talking points and shit, and it gets shared by people that I'm certain have no idea that it expresses such far right ideas. You know what I mean? It's like almost by design.
Oh yeah.
So
well, yeah. Sorry, keep going. I'm just
no, that's
very frustrating.
It is, and
yeah.
I just think that like we're like you were saying, we're in a moment right now where we have virtually really no institutional power. Trans people never have really. Queer people had just started to gain, you know, social, a little bit more than I guess social awareness, like some degree of like, hey, we have a finger on some social power now, and that's being clawed away. And then in light of the, you know, the fact that as this one, I just saw that earlier. Fucking Trevor Project put a stop on working with whatever agency or whatever it was that they did that what was it? They prioritized suicide prevention for queer people, and so now like there's this one of the most important, biggest lifelines for queer people in the country is severed.
Yeah, to explain what exactly is going on, the suicide prevention hotline, if you call that and you say you're from the LGBTQ plus community, they would automatically put you through to somebody from the Trevor Project who specialized in those issues, who would be able to talk you through it. If you had any other suicidal tendencies, they would put you through to whoever best deal with it. And they've cut funding for specifically the LGBT part.
Like,
so
I mean, very obviously just like targeted, like this is just the administration saying, no, even though you are some of, if not the most vulnerable people in existence right now in this country, we want you to die. And
actually, let me just correct what I said. They haven't cut funding. What they've done is they've said you're not allowed to transfer calls to the Trevor Project representatives. I think the Trevor Project funding for the man in that phone line was all done through charitable donations anyway. They're not, because it's a government, because the suicide hotline is a government thing, they're not allowed to now put them through to specialists.
So, I mean, I guess that my thing is just at a certain point when something has just become so, you know, blatantly evil, I feel like a little bit unethical is something I'm fine with. You know, as long as it achieves results. I'm sure that, you know, there'll be some chuds that might clip that and pass it around. Good. I hope you fucking understand that there is a line.
Yeah, I think it's about a balance. The problem is that most people can't see what their balance is. So don't go to the guy's house, basically. Other than that,
I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything to it. But I mean, as Bob Goldway said, there used to be this book that had everybody's phone numbers and addresses in it, and now we act like it's just so taboo. I guess I don't really understand what's different now, except maybe that I don't know. Can you guys
squatting mostly? Like the,
okay, squatting. Fair enough.
You know, the idea that like people
squatting is fucking
do
bad.
that over like internet beefs. That's like the one thing that like concerns me, because like there can be false positives with this stuff, and it can be abused by like bad actors. But the thing is, like, the thing about being transgender in that situation is like transphobes just do that shit to us anyway, you know. So it's kind of like there are no rules like type thing.
No, I just have no fucking endlessly infuriates me that these people that have gotten where they are by appealing to, you know, these fucking vague and flimsy ideas of ethics and morality and stuff just have no actual firm ethics or morality, and they still want to
Oh yeah, I mean, these people will talk all kinds of mad garbage about minority groups, but if their channel gets demonetized, they act like you're killing them. It's crazy. I don't know. Like it's like if I didn't want my channel or videos, not even channel, like some of them complain about like videos getting taken down or whatever. If I didn't want that to happen to my channel, I would just change what I was doing with my videos. Like
well, the problem is whenever that is the thing that makes you your money. Then
sure, yeah, that is the issue. Like the issue that I had years back was that there was like clear deboosting in the algorithm.
Right, I remember
if you
that.
said stuff like gay or trans in your like video, or if
It was
in,
all just
like,
getting like
tags.
categorized under just like sexual discussion, right?
It got treated like you were like talking about porn, basically, and that was like really frustrating. Yeah, I mean, there was a transgender YouTuber who's been getting like mass reported a lot, Anna Valens. Like people have been really going after her in really disgusting ways. But one of the things that that she, and I've been reading her for like years. One of the things that happened is she got a ton of her like YouTube stuff all like taken down because she was doing videos where she talked about stuff like sexuality and stuff like that. And the thing is, like, the standards are just different, like you can be like a cis woman and like do a partnership with a company that sells sex toys, and you can openly talk about that and have that partner that like sponsorship disclosed in your video, which you're supposed to if you're a YouTuber and you're getting sponsorships. But then like if you're a trans woman, you can't like talk about the fact that your identity gets used in porn categories, or if you do, people will mass report it. It's actually crazy.
So I want to point out that you still can, this is not being confuse anybody or anything, but like you still can contact the Trevor Project for suicide prevention purposes. There's the information there. It's just not connected to the same, generalized, 988 system that,
yeah.
I want to answer a question directly at me from No Opinion as well. I am from Britain.
What? Whoa. When were you going to tell me?
Yeah, I know. Shock. I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this because I'm in my 40s in a committed relationship, and all of my nieces and nephews have been raised in a healthy culture. I don't think so, but
it is.
I don't know.
It is. It's so there's the most popular Netflix drop of recent times on original series is called Adolescence. I was listening to a QAnon Anonymous podcast about the show, and it is directly. It starts with apparently one of the main things about the show is it's technically pretty impressive. I haven't watched it myself because it is all shot as a oneer. Obviously it's like a cheat oneer, and those not where oneer is like just a one shot, doesn't ever cut. And then like each episode, I guess, is over a certain amount of time or whatever. But nonetheless, it is about a 12 or 13-year-old boy in some town in England. It's, not even a town I've heard of that murders a girl, a teenage girl. And it's all like caught on camera in a parking lot or whatever. And prior to that, he had no issues that his parents were aware of. They're pretty normal family and whatnot. But anyway, they talked with the creators of the show, and it was very specifically written to address the issue of, like, for instance, there was a couple of years ago, I remember hearing that a teacher in England had said that they basically need to start training therapists, psychologists to deal specifically with Andrew Tate fans, because there's like a whole rash of 12 to 15-year-olds, who are just become radicalized by Andrew Tate content. So yeah, it's a problem, and that show Adolescence was written to address that, because apparently there was some murder or something that happened that was related to the manosphere content. Yeah.
See, I'm out of the loop on that sort of thing. Unfortunately, like I said, my nieces and nephews are almost all out of school now, but they're all very well adjusted, and thankfully, and so yeah, I'm just unaware of it.
See, I've heard it's good. I heard that the child actors are excellent as well. Like the little boy that they got to play the main character is fucking pretty goddamn incredible. So
yep, Stephen Graham's in it as well, and he's a fantastic actor. You'll definitely know him from stuff. Yeah, I think that's Stephen Graham. I think. Yeah, I've heard it's a great show, and I know that right wingers had a terrible time coping with it because uh, they thought it was based on a. It's not based. It's an entirely fictional story. They thought it was based on a true story, but they thought it was based on a true story, and the kid who did the murder was black. That was something. That was a narrative they tried.
Right, they tried to spin it off of that being a racial issue, right?
Wasn't
And
it
then
being written before the thing it was being compared to happened or something like that? Like
yes,
there's a timeline.
yeah, yeah. The one thing they thought it was to do with was the black kid who the right wing claimed was Muslim. This is how confusing the right wing narrative gets. The black kid, the black 17-year-old who murdered a load of kids at a dance recital, the right wing blamed it on a Muslim immigrant, and then the right wing went around and started a riot. Different right wingers, or indeed the same right wingers, thought this was based on that, but it's not. It's entirely fictional. The worst cope I heard was someone was convinced that there would be a twist and it would turn out that the white kid didn't kill anybody, but actually his black friend was the real murderer. So, I mean, this is the sort of twisted hoopery you have to jump through if you're of a certain political persuasion who can't accept things at face value.
Yeah, well, it's also a very like English. I hate to be this way, but
Oh, sorry, I'm not English.
it's a very like English problem, where like literally anything bad happens, and a bunch of people in the press and just a bunch of what's the word for them? The that one type of guy, kind of middle-aged, balding. Gammon, yeah, that a bunch of those dudes are all like, fucking Muslims, they did this, Muslim. And it's like you'd think that would be how Americans are, and occasionally that does certainly happen here, but also like we can't really get our story straight on that stuff because like half the time it's like, no, they were actually transgender, they were actually gay, they were actually a Latino immigrant, actually they were black. Like it's
Yeah, well, your right wingers have got lots of different enemies that they're currently picking on, whereas we've overcome some social problems, and so certain things can't be blamed on certain groups, and so they're just blamed on other groups instead. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but just recently, abortion was decriminalized in the UK. Which is confusing because it was legal to get an abortion here, but you had to do it via your doctor, basically saying that this was causing you mental health issues. And so before, so technically it was illegal, but it wasn't. And they've just completely decriminalized it. So it's no longer a criminal offense, which also means that anybody that got an abortion before it was made legal has now had their criminal records expunged.
That's good.
Wow.
We like to see that. We'll take a rare W. That's nice.
Yeah.
I wish we had something like that here.
Right.
I mean, you're quite a way off that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, we need some real fighters here. There's actually a recent video by a channel. There's this YouTuber called Jimmy the Giant.
Yes, yeah.
He's
He's
kind
a
of
bit too cockney for me, but
yeah, he is that. He's the type of like a British guy that Americans really like. You know, he's kind of got like the right kind of accent and presentation, but he's sort of interesting to me because he's kind of an ex right wing type of dude who has made a few videos about like, you know, here's a thing that is happening to young men. Right wing misinformation is like taking advantage of them. You know, a bunch of stuff like this. He did a video very recently. It's called "The Middle Class British Grifter Explained." I thought it was kind of fascinating. His take.
Yeah, I did
on
watch
that.
one. Yeah, yeah. He's got a point up to a point. And I think he boils down complex issues in a simple way while not quite getting everything right, but still like 90% of it's right. So I'm not,
Yeah,
you know.
he's definitely onto something with like the idea that there is a type of guy. Because
And there's
that's
still, we've
for
still
real.
got, yeah, I mean, to explain it simply, in the UK, the class structure is still sort of there in the same way that in the US, it's a financial sort of culture. So society views rich people as being somehow better, and we view posh people as being somehow better, which sort of variations on the same theme. Yeah, so middle class people, well spoken middle class people, are venerated outside of their positions, basically. And it's always been it. There was a period where working class voices were much more represented, sort of during the 80s and 90s, and that's sort of gone back to the bad old days when people with plummy accents are more representative now.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting how much like linguistics plays into like English classism. That's actually probably the people try to do this kind of weird take with the writings of Tolkien in like fandom, where they try to like talk about like Tolkien and race and Tolkien and this and that. There is actually a very like kind of implicitly racist but genuinely quite classist element to Lord of the Rings, where the orcs are like, they're just lower class English people in terms of how they talk and stuff like that. And the way that Tolkien wrote about it is like, well, look at this obviously disgusting group of like losers.
Yeah, but then I think what he neatly contrasts is that in that the hobbits are also the lower classes, in some respects, and that's why.
Yeah, but I think that the thing that makes it a little bit racial to me is the juxtaposition of like the kind of rural and urban kind of lifestyles. You know, maybe that's my American kind of take because of how that reads to us. But I do think that, you know, there's the sort of pastoral bliss of Hobbiton contrasted with the kind of like sinister industry of Mordor makes that seem like, you know, like if I were an English racist and I was looking at the orcs, I would be thinking, okay, like, you know, Muslims, Indians, you know, Africans, like that's kind of the picture. But it's drawn together by a kind of class aesthetic, which I think is really quite interesting.
And it's seen as much more of a class thing here because we had some so weird rules, like in you see this in Dickens and in a lot of Jane Austen stuff. If you're posh enough, getting a job is seen as awful. You should be able to just live off your parents' inheritance, and you shouldn't need to work. And working class people, it's the awful thing. It's not the done thing. People actually torment themselves of having to get a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's that's not the way it is here. Like even whenever there are no jobs, you will get judged as just some kind of fucking, you know, a layabout bum, you know.
Our rich people have to pretend to be hard workers because we've got this whole like Protestant work ethic thing going on.
And that's how it is now here. But certainly, 100 years ago, if you had to get a job, if you needed to earn a living, that was awful. That was the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. And so you couldn't just be sort of either some sort of be basically made a lawyer or something like that. Then it's awful.
I think it's something interesting in chat. Hobbits and orcs equals sharks and jets. I think it's that's what the conflict in Cirith Ungol is about. It's sharks and jets. It's the Cirith Ungol orcs and the Minas Morgul orcs.
Yeah, Jay Bird is right. That did happen one time. It's
I want to call attention to a video that I've been meaning to point out just like on my own streams, and I keep forgetting, but like this channel is not really directly related to what we're discussing now, but it is I guess maybe it kind of more relates to the ethics of the doxing thing, but like this video is pretty excellent for what it is. Why the far right is always worse than the far left. You know, and because this is the kind of thing that they basically have gained power by pretending like they're just opposite sides of the coin. And in fact, they're the more ethical, moral ones or whatever. This guy does a pretty good job within 22 minutes of laying out exactly how fallacious that is.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Dane, because equivocation is what comes before violence, right? Like when somebody wants to hurt you, the first thing that they'll say is like, well, I'm no worse than like the other like group of people. And it's like, well, wait a minute, like you're admitting that you have bad intentions. Oh man, yeah, that's very tough.
I mean, you know, and then statistics and stuff, you know, show what the reality is of you know, we talked about this on the Fabcast pretty regularly, that, you know, it's by and large, I think it's something like I don't remember the exact statistics, but it's by far and away mostly white, straight, cis men that are doing it in the name of some kind of vague, you know, patriotism / evangelical, you know, view. And they're far more deadly. There's more of them. There's more incidents, and each one incident is far more deadly than anything that is vaguely connected to the left, which is, you know, can be anything, just somebody who's, you know, I don't know, been known to vote Democrat. I don't know, but like,
yeah,
I'm gonna DM this to you guys. It's the Jimmy the Giant video that I was mentioning earlier. The reason why I brought that up is because the comment section on it was exactly the type of thing Ryan was talking about, where he's kind of a little, even just like moderately disdainful of some of the like white English upper class histrionics about immigration in that video. And not even really making that many like arguments about it. He's just kind of passively like, oh, look at these people. Like they're screaming about immigrants, what losers. And the comment section is full of people who are like, actually, you're not taking seriously the issue of immigrant. It really is a problem here, and you should be taking it more seriously. Like if you just keep scrolling, you'll just find a bunch of comments like that, I'm sure.
I've never bought into the horseshoe theory. The idea that people's politics overlap, everybody's politics overlap in some arena. We saw that at the very start of this stream. You played a clip of Tucker Carlson doing good. In that moment, his politics overlap with mine, but I guarantee they don't anywhere else. So,
well, the way he presents horseshoe theory in this is you know, it's the first thing he says. So let's just see what he says, and then I recommend subscribing to the channel and checking this whole video out. But
it's muted.
Oh, it sure is.
The media likes to portray left and right extremism as being equally evil and dangerous. This is commonly referred to as horseshoe theory. If you follow both left or right-wing ideology to their extremes, they eventually become equivalent to one another. This is wrong for a variety of historical and ideological reasons. In today's video, we're going to take left-wing ideology and right-wing ideology, drag them out to their extremes in both personal characteristics and government policies, and show how right-wing extremism is morally worse and a much bigger threat. Let's first establish general left versus right values, starting with,
you know, and then this is probably the part where you know, people might be able to quibble with you know, what he says, but I think is, you know, as much as you can generalize and get an accurate picture of something, he does a pretty good job. But yeah, the way he breaks it in terms of individual lines, in terms of you know, government systemic lines, is pretty solid. Yeah, other than that, did you guys have anything you wanted to promote before we get out of here?
I don't, so I'll let Chariot. Oh God, I succeed my time to Chariot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have should be having a new video every Thursday for a few months now. I've got a bunch of stuff planned.
You've been fucking
including
playing the
tomorrow.
long game.
I've been trying. I've been building. So hopefully people enjoy what I have. I'm catching up on content for patrons right now is what I'm working on. But I've got a ton of stuff that I'm kind of doing and kind of building up to. And I've been doing some Dragon Age stuff lately, some kind of low key stuff that, you know, I got to show people the vision, but I want to write more about like gay characters in video games. So tomorrow is another Dragon Age one. It's about Dragon Age 2 and Anders and like the idea of like revolutionary gay, kind of like he's violence, basically. He's like a terrorist, but he is a really interesting character. And I sort of analyze him in the context of like, he's kind of like the partner of like an Alan Turing style figure whose ability to feel for his gay lover is like taken from him. He's the mages in Dragon Age have this thing called tranquility, which is like emotional sterilization. Like they no longer dream, they no longer really have feelings.
Oh God.
It's kind of like being on certain types of like antipsychotic drugs, and I've had this experience where like you just kind of stop having feelings, you know, like you still have like preferences and ideas, but you don't have the extreme like emotional swings anymore. And that's kind of like, it's a more extreme version of like that. It's really messed up, and it's a really interesting kind of narrative element of that universe. And then that's tomorrow. Next week, I've got a video about Andor and fascism and genocide.
Fuck yes.
Little kind of Israel-Palestine commentary in that one, little America commentary. And then I'm shuffling stuff around for exactly which week it's going to be uploaded in the next few months. But August, I've got more Dragon Age stuff planned. And then July, I've got more Star Wars stuff, talking about gay representation in Star Wars, talking about like the whole, I've got a video called Modern Gaming is Dead. But it's, you know, in air quotes, like the idea of that modern gaming is dead, kind of debunking that concept. I've got a video about like that I'm still kind of putting together about like race and racism in the Elder Scrolls that I think is really interesting. Yeah, doing a lot of video game related stuff, a lot of Star Wars stuff, something every week. So
that's awesome. Glad to hear that. Yeah, looking forward to it. I have been I've just fallen behind on a lot of stuff. Just in terms of content, I've had videos that I've been wanting to make and started making, and then I don't end up following through for various reasons. Basically, you know, because it boils down to being a parent, and it's been a struggle to get time to focus. That's my thing. Is like I have plenty of time. It's not like I have no time. Like I obviously can do a live stream or whatever, but like if I'm trying to focus on a video, because the first several years of doing content, I lived alone, you know, and this is going to sound like I'm complaining about my family. I'm absolutely not. I love my family. It's not what this is. But like I lived alone. And so my relationship to making content from the start was just me solo. I wake up and I just fucking start working on it. And I just kind of do a little bit of obsessive working until the shit's done, you know? And then now I can't really do that. And so I'm trying to, you know, balance that a little bit more. Thankfully, I can do live streams. I enjoy doing live streams and talking to everybody, and also making secondary content from live streams. I'll have a video up in the next day or two from a stream a while back where I looked at, talked about Rags from EFAP, just him in particular, isolated from Mahler because he's an interesting fella. And just wanted to kind of do a dive into what's going on with him. But yeah, that's about it. And then still kind of plugging away here and there at this Nerdrotic compilation that I did. I'm really actually glad that I didn't get that out when I wanted to, because there's a lot of stuff in Birdman's video recently that I'd like to include. So yeah, that's about it. And on that note, I suppose we shall get the fuck out of here. I will be streaming on Friday. I'm not sure what time. I'll have to figure that out. But, you know, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Then get that notification and whatnot. Also, everybody on screen here, everybody that was here today, and pretty much everybody that's ever here, is always linked in the description of the streams where you can go and peruse. There's a lot more people down there too. Check them all out. Diet and the Force is down there. Chariot's down there. Ryan's down there. Lots of people down there. Organized Chaos, who has his kids for the summer, so he might be able to, you know, do a show here and there. But for right now, he is on hiatus, and we wish him well. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Also, where the fuck is where's Saw Gerrera? Where's that?
You have no idea where I am.